At a urinal inside of Arrowhead Stadium, halftime of the game, Chiefs are beating the Lions last night, and a guy turns to me, looks at me, he's in a Lions jersey, and he goes, "This place is loud as bleep." And I was like, "That's right, my man. Woo! Welcome to Arrowhead, baby. Can you believe that there's talk of get rid of this place?" No, we didn't actually keep the conversation going. I was just trying to not get Pete on at that point, okay? So I just said, "Yep, it's loud in here. Please aim straight, buddy. All right? Keep it going. Happy Monday." It's 6:05. It is a victory Monday across Kansas City. Chiefs beat the Lions 30-17. I was wrong on my prediction. John was wrong on his prediction. Mark, he kept the faith. He was not just right on his prediction. I believe he hit his big parlay, did he not?
The parlay wins.
The parlay wins.
Finally.
Parlay Van Sickle comes through on a Sunday night football matchup. Chiefs beat the Lions 30-17. Didn't it feel like the old days, scoring touchdowns and not settling for field goals? Offense was humming along. Man, that felt good last night.
That was so good.
Oh,
I loved watching that.
It was such a sight to see. My goodness. Outside of Butker, something going on there. He's got the yips a little bit. I don't know what's happening there. But it was a great night. Weather was beautiful. It felt like it was, late August, early September out there last night. Kate and I just went on a whim and had a great time. Bumped into Mayor Lucas as well. We'll tell you about that doozy of a meeting coming up later this morning on KCMO Talk Radio. But the Chiefs are back on track, and the world is also back on track this morning. The President of the United States is set to address the Israeli parliament coming up here shortly. This after all living hostages are released by Hamas 738 days after they were taken captive. The first 7 hostages returned this morning at 1:30 Central, and then the remaining 13 hostages were released in the last couple of hours by Hamas. It has been an incredibly emotional morning across all of Israel. The president right now is in Jerusalem. He will be addressing the Israeli parliament. But you are seeing celebrations all across the nation. Right now I'm looking at live shots of Tel Aviv, where you have people waving their Israeli flags, celebrating what has been 2 years of hell for that part of the world. And let's be very clear on why this ended. It ended because of one man, and that's Donald Trump. It doesn't matter whether or not you voted for Donald Trump. It doesn't matter today what you think of Donald Trump. But the reality of this situation and this war coming to an end is because of that guy. And not just his leadership here in the United States, but his leadership around the world. Because for 4 years, we had the substitute teacher in the White House. And the world, in large part, acted out. The worst actors, just like when you're back in 5th, 6th grade, right? The knuckleheads are going to be bigger knuckleheads when the substitute teacher is running the classroom. Joe Biden was the sub.
Come on, man.
And now you've got the permanent teacher back in the saddle, and all those knuckleheads in the classrooms, what are they doing? Well, they get back in line, at least temporarily, at least for the time being. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, world peace is here forever. That would be a fool's errand. But there is no doubt in my mind that for as long as this guy is here, and we know that's happening through January of 2029, the world is going to be a safer place. And that's better for all of us waking up today, not just in Kansas City, but around the country. It's indisputable that this news today, as you see these incredibly emotional photos and videos from Israel happening right in front of us right now after 2 years of this, is something that a lot of people didn't think was going to happen. And it's happening on this guy's watch. And, even CNN, during their live broadcast this morning from Israel, was absolutely impressed with the President of the United States.
And welcome back to CNN's breaking news coverage as we are covering a historic moment here in Israel, because for the first time in 2 years, over 2 years, 738 days, Hamas holds no living hostages in its captivity for the first time.
So this has been quite a scene this morning, and right now at 6:10 on a Monday, the President of the United States is getting set to address the Israeli parliament. He just received a standing ovation, and let's take a listen right now to this historic speech going on live from Jerusalem.
Jews are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious. 28 more precious loved ones are coming home at last to rest in this sacred soil for all of time. And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity. This is not only the end of a war, this is the end of an age of terror and death and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East. I want to express my gratitude to a man of exceptional courage and patriotism whose partnership did so much to make this momentous day possible. You know who I'm talking about. There's only one, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Bibi, please stand up. And he is not easy, I want to tell you. He's not the easiest guy to deal with. But that's what makes him great. That's what makes him great. Thank you very much, baby. Great job. And let me also convey my tremendous appreciation for all of the nations of the Arab and Muslim world that came together to press Hamas to set the hostages free and to send them home. We had a lot of help. We had a lot of help from a lot of people that you wouldn't suspect, and I want to thank them very much for that. It's an incredible triumph for Israel and the world to have all of these nations working together as partners in peace. And it's pretty unusual for you to see that, but it happened in this case. This was a very unusual point in time, a brilliant point in time. Generations from now, this will be remembered as the moment that everything began to change, and change very much for the better. Like the USA right now, it will be the golden age of Israel and the golden age of the Middle East. It's going to work together. I'd like to thank several great American patriots for their invaluable help in getting something done that almost everyone thought was absolutely impossible. We were wasting our time. So many people said, "You're just wasting your time." But we weren't, because we had talented people working with us, and we had people that loved your country, and frankly, people that loved the region. They loved the Middle East. I want to thank my friend Steve Witkoff. You know, Steve was chosen by me. He never did this before, but I knew him as a few things. He was a great businessman, but I know a lot of great businessmen, to be honest with you. He had tremendous negotiating skills, but I know a lot of people that negotiate pretty well, although it is an art. But there are people that can negotiate pretty well. But most importantly with Steve, he's just a great guy. Everybody loved him. Everybody. I mean, I know some negotiators that are so good, but you wouldn't have had peace in the Middle East. It would be in World War III right now with some of these guys. Everybody loves Steve, and they respect him, and they somehow can relate to him. I've known him for many years, and I've seen it over and over again.
להוציא את חבר הכנסת עודה, להוציא אותו מהאולם, להוציא אותו מיד, החוצה, החוצה.
You're listening live to President Trump. He is addressing the Israeli parliament right now after the historic peace deal has, of course, gone through. You have 20 Israeli hostages who have been released by Hamas this morning. There looks to be some trouble inside the Israeli parliament, where a couple of individuals are right now being escorted. Let's listen back in and get back to President Trump's speech here at 6:16 on a Monday morning in Kansas City on KCMO 95.7 FM.
That was very efficient. So back to Steve. He's but I tell one story because he was so involved, and then we called in Jared. We need that brain on occasion. We got to get Jared in here. We got to get a certain group of people, but Steve started this all by himself. I call him Henry Kissinger, who doesn't leak, okay? Henry is a big leaker. He leaked. Steve doesn't leak. Steve just wants to get the job done. He wants to do what's right. But I'll give you just a quick story because, as you know, he's working on the war with Russia and Ukraine, a war that would have never happened if I were president. A shame. 7,000 young soldiers a week are being killed. More than that this last week. It's a shame. It should have never happened. But it did happen, and we won the race, and I took over this horrible war that's been raging, and I thought it would be easily settled. I thought it was a hell of a lot easier than doing what we just did very successfully with Israel and a lot of other people. But this came first, and we'll get that one. But I set up a meeting for him to meet with President Putin, thinking it would be a 15 or a 20-minute meeting. Steve had no idea about Russia, had no idea about Putin too much, didn't know too much about politics, wasn't that interested. He was really good at real estate, but he had that quality that I was looking for, and I didn't see it around in too many ways. And I set up the meeting with Putin, and I called. I said, is Steve finished yet? That was about a half an hour into the meeting. No, sir, he's not. He's still inside. This is in Moscow. I said, well, how's he doing? I don't know, sir. He's still inside. I called up an hour later. Let me speak to Steve. Sir, he's still with Putin. He's with President Putin. I said, wow, that's a long meeting, 1 hour. I called up an hour later, he was still with Putin. 3 hours later, he was still with Putin. 4 hours later, he started to get the word that he was going to be coming out soon. And in 5 hours, he came out. I said, what the hell were you talking about for 5 hours? And he says, just a lot of interesting things. We're talking about a lot of interesting things, including what he went in there for, but you can't talk about it for 5. You can talk about it for a certain period of time, and you know what you're getting. But that's a talent. That's a talent where you can do that. Most people I'd send in, number one, they wouldn't be accepted. Number two, if they were, the meeting would last 5 minutes. And that's what happens with Steve. Everybody loves him. They love him on this side. They love him on the other side. And he really is. He's a great negotiator because he's a great guy. So thank you very much, Steve. Very much.
President Trump addressing the Israeli parliament right now after the historic peace deal, of course, coming to a conclusion this morning with all 20 hostages that are still alive from Israel being released this morning by Hamas. The president in Jerusalem giving this speech right now.
Thanks to someone who truly loves Israel. In fact, loves it so much that my daughter converted. My daughter converted. I didn't know this was going to happen. And Ivanka's here.
Ivanka getting the standing ovation right now with Jared Kushner to her right.
And Bibi, you do know this was not in the cards for me. You understand that. And she is so happy, and they are so happy. At least I think they're happy. If they're not, we have a big story, right? No, they have a great marriage, and they get along great. They're best friends. They have a very special relationship. But Jared has been so helpful. He really did something very special. He established the Abraham Accords with a group of very wonderful people. I like calling it the Avraham Accords because people that, right? Avraham. It's so cool. It's so much sort of nicer, you know, the Abraham versus the Avraham. I just don't want to sound too sanctimonious when I do it, so, you know, I sort of split it up. This way we keep everybody happy. But we have some very great talent, and they have no excuses for anything that's taken place because we had some unbelievably good people working on this. And then you're going to add a man named Marco Rubio, who is also here. That's right. And I have a prediction that Marco will go down, I mean this, as the greatest Secretary of State in the history of the United States. I believe that. I believe it. And he and I, you know, we really fought it out. You remember, he was tough. He was nasty. Who the hell thought this was going to happen, Marco, right? And now I'm saying he's going to go down as the greatest. He will. He was always smart and sharp, and people respect him. And
President Trump right now is addressing the Israeli parliament the morning of a historic peace deal. 20 Israeli hostages have been released. The president is giving this address in Jerusalem right now in real time. Let's get back to the president of the United States.
Secretary of War, formerly Secretary of Defense. And as you know, we decisively won World War I. We decisively won World War II decisively. And everything in between and everything before it, we won everything. And then they had the brilliant idea of changing the name from war, you know, it was war, to defense. And with that went a certain thinking. And we fought in a very politically correct way after that. We always had the strongest military, and now we have a stronger military than we've ever had before. Because of my first term, I've totally rebuilt the military, every aspect of it. But we have, if you think, we settled 8 wars in 8 months. I'm now including this one, by the way, if that's okay. They may say, well, that was quick, because yesterday I was saying 7, but now I can say 8. The hostages are back. The hostages are back. It is a good feeling. Isn't that nice to say? You know, I just said the hostage. First time I said the hostages are back. It feels so good to say it. But when you settle 8 wars in 8 months, that means you don't like war. Everyone thought I was going to be brutal. In fact, I remember Hillary Clinton during a debate, she said, look at him, he's going to go to war with everybody. And actually, she said, he's got a personality that's all about war. No, and my personality actually is all about stopping wars, and it seems to work. Seems to work. But it also means this name change and our attitude that we're not going to go into a war, but if we do, we're going to win that war like nobody has ever won a war before. We will not be politically correct, but we're not going to be there. And I think, you know, as you mentioned, Bibi, before, peace through strength, and that's what it's all about. The United States has the greatest and most powerful military in the, right now, history of the world. I can tell you we have weapons that nobody's ever dreamt of. I only hope we never have to use them. I rebuilt the military. I was proud to do it, but some of the things I hated to do. I hated certain of the weapons because the level of power is so enormous. It's so dangerous, so bad. But we have to do what we have to do. We make the best weapons in the world, and we've got a lot of them. And we've given a lot to Israel, frankly. And
all right, you're listening to President Trump. He is giving a speech right now in Jerusalem on a historic morning here back in the States, of course. Local time there in Jerusalem is 2:26 in the afternoon as all 20 hostages who are still alive being held captive by Hamas have been released in the last few hours. President getting many standing ovations. And we'll catch you up on everything else going on, including some big stories in Kansas City, along with what's happening in Jerusalem coming up right after this on KCMO.
depravity and death all began. 2 years ago, on the eve of the Simchat Torah holiday, thousands of innocent Israeli civilians were attacked by terrorists, and one of the most evil and heinous desecrations of innocent life the world has ever seen, the worst slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust. The cruelty of October 7th struck to the core of humanity itself. Nobody could believe what they were witnessing. The United States of America grieved alongside you, and we mourned for our own citizens who were so viciously taken that day, and to all the families whose lives were forever changed by the atrocities of that day, and all of the people of Israel, please know that America joins you in those two everlasting vows: never forget and never again. From October 7th until this week, Israel has been a nation at war, enduring burdens that only a proud and faithful people could withstand. It was a very tough period of time. For so many families across this land, it has been years since you've known a single day of true peace. But now at last, not only for Israelis, but also for Palestinians and for many others, the long and painful nightmare is finally over. And as the dust settles, the smoke fades, the debris is removed, and the ashes cleaned from the air, the day that breaks on a region transformed and a beautiful and much brighter future appear suddenly within your reach. This is now a very exciting time for Israel and for the entire Middle East, because all across the Middle East, the forces of chaos, terror, and ruin that have plagued the region for decades now stand weakened, isolated, and totally defeated. A new coalition of proud and responsible nations is emerging, and because of us, the enemies of all civilization are in retreat. Thanks to the bravery and incredible skill of the Israeli Defense Forces and Operation Rising Lion, guy's central casting. Let's put him in a movie. Look at him. Great job. And my people loved working with you. Loved it. They worked so well together. But many of Iran's top terrorists, including nuclear scientists and commanders, have been extinguished from this earth. And with Operation Midnight Hammer, boy, that's a great name for that, what we did last June. The United States military flew 7 of those beautiful B-2 bombers. They look so beautiful all of a sudden. They were always, I thought they were pretty planes. I had no idea they could do what they did. In fact, we just ordered 28 more of them. A little updated version. We ordered a whole pile of them. And almost 100 other planes went with them, including fighter jets. And we had 52 tankers, big, beautiful, brand new tankers that were loading them up 4 or 5 times. They've traveled 37 hours back and forth. Think of that. But we had tankers all over the sky for all the other planes. We had the F-22s, the F-35s, F-16s. We had a hell of a lot of planes. So we had 52 gas stations in the sky. That's what they call them. I'll tell you, I wouldn't want to be flying one of them. We have our great General Raisin Cain right here. General, stand up. This guy. What a general. Thank you. I asked General Cain, I said, we're having problems with ISIS, and I was in Washington, and I asked, how long would it take to defeat ISIS? And my Washington generals told me, 3, 4, maybe 5 years, sir. I said, I don't get it. We got the best equipment in the world. Why? So I flew to Iraq, and I met with a man named Cain. He said, what's your first name? He said, they call me Raisin, sir. I said, wait a minute, your name is Raisin Cain? I've been looking for you for a long time. You gotta be kidding. So they told me 3, 4, 5 years to defeat ISIS. And I sit down with him and I say, why is it? I flew there in the dark of night. I landed, I'll never forget it. It was quite a trip. I'm glad I made it because I met him. I said, could I ask you, General? I come down. He said with another general and a sergeant. Everybody was like central casting. They could go into a movie right now. Between him and you guys over here, we could get rich making movies, okay? And they got along so great. That's the beautiful thing, that your military and our military, Bibi, got along so great. But
from Gladstone to Gardner, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Well, it's already been a busy morning. We're a half hour into the show, and the President of the United States speaking after 20 living hostages freed by Hamas this morning, signaling an end to the Israel-Hamas war that has been going on for over 2 years at this point, just a little over 2 years since that October 7th, 2023 tragic day where 1,200 Jews were killed in the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And the President of the United States in Jerusalem this morning giving a great, very Trumpian speech, all over the map, but also making it very clear that the world is a safer place today than it was yesterday. And he's absolutely right about that. And this is all because of the work of his team. And to his credit, the president in this speech has been very deferential towards Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, some of the people around him, his own son-in-law, Jared Kushner, my great son-in-law. We got to break his brains out once in a while. He's giving props all over the place. And yes, he's taking credit himself, but he's really making it about the team. It's like when Patrick Mahomes talks about a big win after he throws for 400 yards and the defense doesn't show up. He still credits the team. To Trump's credit, that's what he's doing right now in Jerusalem. But we have to be honest. It's because of him that we are even here today. Do you really believe? Just ask in your heart of hearts, whoever you voted for back on November 5th of last year, do you really think that Kamala Harris is ending this war if she is in the White House? Please. You know the answer and I know the answer. And Kamala Harris was actually asked about this over the weekend. She did an interview on MSNBC, and the host said, hey, listen, we got this peace deal coming. Shouldn't we give Trump some credit for this? And Kamala Harris eventually got to the answer after one big word salad. Here's what that sounded like.
When this airs, President Trump will be on his way to the Middle East. They have this deal between Israel and Palestine. Both former Secretaries of State Hillary Clinton and Antony Blinken have commended President Trump for the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Do you agree with them? Should he be commended?
Look, I don't think that we should hold and credit where it's due. First of all, let me say about that deal, I really do hope it becomes real and that the hostages are out, that Gaza is no longer being treated with such brutality of force, that aid goes in. And I commend the people who have been a part of this process. I'd commend the Qataris, the Egyptians, and the president.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the last guy, too. Yeah. I guess I'll commend him while I'm at it, says Kamala Harris to MSNBC over the weekend. Even Hillary Clinton telling CBS News over the weekend, quote, I really commend President Trump and his administration, as well as Arab leaders in the region, for making the commitment to the 20-point plan and seeing a path forward for what's often called the day after. Most importantly, the conflict hopefully will end with the ceasefire. So that was Hillary Clinton very clearly stating, I give credit to this president and to this administration. And that should not be difficult to do because nothing about today is political. It's about saving lives. It's about ending war. But it also is a sign that peace through strength is not just a phrase. It's policy. When the worst actors on the planet fear the United States, and I mean in a way that it's like, I don't want to screw with these guys, right? When they have that fear, guess what? Good things happen around the world. We've seen it time and time again. Most recently in most of our lifetimes, you saw it during the Reagan years. And that's in many ways very similar to what President Trump's policy has been when it comes to foreign affairs. I know there's a nationalist approach that a lot of people like to lean into when it comes to the president of the United States and, an isolation mentality. But in many ways, it's not all that different from what Reagan implemented during his time in office, right? The best way to be able to focus on America first is to make sure the rest of the world is in order with a peace through strength approach. And that's what we're literally living through right now. And we're seeing this happen firsthand in Jerusalem with the president of the United States being there this morning. You had 20 hostages released this morning, 7 at about 1:30 Central Time, our time here in Kansas City, and then you had the other 13 released by Hamas in the last few hours. But this is just an incredible day and a historic day, and we will have more reaction on it throughout the morning. And also hear from you at 913-408-7957. That's the studio line and the text line here on KCMO Talk Radio as we hit 640 on a Monday, a victory Monday. The Chiefs get back to 3-3. Mark Van Sickle hits his big parlay that he gave you on Friday morning in our buy, sell, hold segment that we do at 8:45. That's why if you're on the early side of things, just catch us on the podcast if you can't be here in the 8 o'clock hour because Mark's trying to make you money. Listen, these are tough times, but old Mark Van Sickle's making you some money in there.
That's right. If you listen back after the show on a Friday, you'll get to it before a Sunday game.
Oh, you absolutely will. No doubt about it. And also, just a quick programming note. I know on Friday we told you about how we got the boot from doing the Gardner-Edgerton football game on Friday. Who were they supposed to play? They played Olathe East. That's right. Your alma mater. So we got the 11th hour hook from Gardner-Edgerton. So we decided to do, what, Blue Valley West.
Blue Valley West versus Blue Valley Southwest. Homecoming for Blue Valley West.
All right. So that game we did on Friday, we whipped it all together at the last minute. Credit to Blue Valley West and Blue Valley Southwest for having us on Friday night. It made it easier for us since we had already done a Blue Valley West game. So technically speaking, we knew what we needed to do to pull that game off. But we heard from many athletic directors and many of you in the high school football scene around Kansas City. We thank you. But we just had to do a game that we knew we could pull off technically at the last minute. But basically, Gardner-Edgerton gave us the boot, as I understand it, in talking to their athletic director, because we use student broadcasters as our color analysts. We have our professional play-by-play guy, and then we have our color analysts who are students at the respective schools of the games that we're calling. And the Gardner-Edgerton AD said he did not like the fact that we had a questionnaire for the students that included things like, hey, tell us about your teammates, share some insight into your teammates that maybe they won't hear on other broadcasts. So just kind of take us behind the scenes. And this is something we've done in conjunction with Sportscaster.com all season. They have a history of doing this in other cities. And this is the first time an AD pulled the plug at the 11th hour because of his ego. So you have, sadly, young broadcasters who had an opportunity of a lifetime taken out of their hands this past Friday night because of their own administration, because of their own bureaucracy. I just find that sad. I find that disappointing, and it didn't need to be that way. It really didn't. But to each their own. To think that these kids didn't get a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to broadcast on this radio station because the AD didn't like the questionnaire and he wanted to see it first, that is not what teaching and coaching up our young people is supposed to be all about, okay? It's not. But you know what? Some people make it about them instead of making it about the kids first. It's a darn shame. Coming up, the 6 at 6, top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour you need to know on a Monday morning. KCMO 95.7 FM.
from the nation's heartland. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
6:49 here on KCMO Talk Radio. Happy Monday. Thanks for starting your week with us on KCMO. Here we go.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
Top story this morning on a Monday is what is happening in Israel. All 20 living hostages in Gaza were released by Hamas in the early morning hours. It is right now 2:48 in the afternoon in Jerusalem. The president of the United States gave a big speech to the Israeli parliament this morning, and all 20 living hostages are back in Israel. You had the first 7 returning at about 1:30 Central Time this morning, and then the remaining 13 released by Hamas just hours later. 738 days after they were taken captive following the attacks of October 7th. The president is once again giving one of his classic going on hour-long speeches at this point to not just the Israeli parliament, but the world, and signaling an era of peace being ahead in the Middle East.
Number 2.
Next up, the government shutdown enters day number 13. So there's no end in sight for this thing. Of course, today is Columbus Day. We'll have Joe Piscopo on the show coming up at 8:30 this morning. Do not miss that. Of Saturday Night Live fame, and now he's a talk radio host, a proud Italian-American at 8:30 here on 95.7 FM. But as a result, nothing happening today. However, the Senate will vote again tomorrow on a bill to end the shutdown. But a handful of Democrats have to vote to end the shutdown. They need 60 votes in the U.S. Senate to end this government shutdown. Republicans only have 51 seats, so they need several Democrats to cross the aisle and just vote to open up the government. And all they're looking to do is keep the spending levels where they're at and where they have been until the middle of November, while they figure out basically all the appropriations and the spending plans and things of that nature. It's not a big ask. Democrats did it under Biden. Republicans went along with it. Democrats are blocking this, I think, in part to signal their base that they're tough against Trump or something. But in the meantime, we now have going on 2 weeks of this government shutdown. And one thing that is starting to be a real issue is what's going on at the airports. You are seeing flights that are increasingly delayed because of air traffic control staffing issues. You now have 4,000 civil service workers who were notified on Friday they were being laid off rather than simply furloughed as in past shutdowns. The Smithsonian's National Zoo closed on a Sunday. But the animals, don't worry, are still being fed. But you are starting to see more of an impact on this government shutdown as we approach the 2-week mark.
Number 3.
The Chiefs get a Sunday night football win over the Lions 32-17 last night. They needed that one. They are now 3-3 on the season after that Monday night football loss last week to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it was a big night for Mahomes. Threw for 257 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions on the night. Kelsey also had himself a good game. 6 catches, 78 yards as well. The Chiefs beat the Red Hot Lions, who had won 4 straight, to get back to 3-3 on the season.
Number 4.
Well, over the weekend, there was a tragedy. 3 people hurt early Sunday morning. 3-vehicle crash northbound I-35 near 119th Street. Troopers said the crash happened at 2:52 in the morning when a Honda Civic traveling south in the northbound lanes collided with 2 other vehicles. The driver of the Civic, a 21-year-old man from Shawnee, was taken to Overland Park Regional Medical Center with suspected serious injuries. A 29-year-old woman from Parkville driving the other vehicle, and a 59-year-old woman from Olathe driving the third vehicle, both sustained minor injuries and were taken to area hospitals. The crash remains under investigation. We'll keep it rolling here on the 6 at 6.
Number 5.
Well, let's go to Jackson County, where today we have the candidates in a 10 o'clock meeting to replace Frank White, scheduled for interviews. That's right. There will be interviews today for those candidates who want to be the Frank White replacement for Jackson County Executive. You have former Kansas City Mayor Kay Barnes, who is set to be in there for up to 30 days. But she can't hold the position longer than 30 days. So someone's got to replace Frank White until next year's election. And that process takes the next step later today, John.
The list shrunk by one over the weekend, did you note?
I did not.
Deron McGee withdrew
for
this cycle because I'm sure he wants to run for election.
So he's out.
That's the story I saw. Yeah,
Okay.
For the temporary replacement.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Good. I think that makes sense. If I'm him, first off, I've said that the replacement should not be allowed to run for election next year. They should make that a rule. And the fact that Deron McGee, who is the current chair of the Jackson County Legislature, pulled his name out of the hat, that is a good sign to me that he's actually got some common sense. I don't know him personally. I've heard good things about him. But you know what? I'm glad he's doing that. So now hopefully we can just find an interim replacement on somebody who just wants to basically hold it down for 1 year and is not looking to use this as some kind of launching pad into a political future, because that's how Frank White got involved here, replacing Mike Sanders going on almost 10 years ago now. Last up in our 6 at 6.
Number 6.
Diane Keaton dying at the age of 79, confirmed by the family over the weekend. I didn't even know that she was, frankly, not doing well. And I feel like I was just watching her movies all of a few years ago, but she has
Been
died.
very active, yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading the movies they attributed to her, and I go, I don't know those. That's because she's been churning them out. I mean, I know the 70s and 80s classics up through the 90s, I guess, but she's been busy for the last 20 years.
I know. She was making movies up to the last couple of years. I was like, dang, I did not know she was still that active. But she has died at the age of 79 years old. Sad news over the weekend. Pete Mundo on KCMO. It is great to be with you back on a Monday. There are your top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour. The lead story, the President of the United States addressing the Israeli parliament this morning in Jerusalem after the 20 living hostages have been freed by Hamas. We'll have more in the 7 o'clock hour on that front, but next, our good friend Kendall Gammon is going to be here. The Chiefs get a big win. What does he make of it, the highlights, and what still needs to be worked on? We'll talk to Kendall about next. Well, the Chiefs back in the win column. 3-3 now in the season, beating the Lions last night at Arrowhead Stadium 30-17. Kendall Gammon, our Chiefs insider, former player, is here to talk about it. It is brought to you by Xfinity. Sports are unpredictable. The price of your internet shouldn't be. Introducing the 5-year price guarantee, one consistent internet price for 5 years with no annual contracts, guaranteed. All right, Kendall, what gave you the most optimism coming out of that game last night, my friend?
You know what? The best thing about it is I don't know whether to praise the offense or defense more because they both played so well. I mean, Pete, when you look at it, Detroit was coming in averaging almost 35 points a game, and the defense holds them to 17. Pretty impressive. And then, and you wondered how it was going to be because that first drive, they took nearly 10 minutes off the clock, did Detroit, but they responded after that. Then offensively, though, Patrick Mahomes in the night, he has 4 touchdowns total, 3 passing, 1 running. Just everything was good. And then maybe we go with this, which is they played a clean game penalty-wise, no penalties. And that's something that they haven't done since like November of 2022. So that doesn't happen very often. So just all in all, a great night.
I was going to go right to the penalties, and you went there at the end, and you're right. First time in almost 3 years, no penalties in a game. And listen, we had seen some sloppy play, especially from some of the leaders on this team, and we talked about this on Friday. So I don't know. I don't know how this game could have gone any better, Kendall, to feel better about this team than it did yesterday with both sides of the ball. I mean, the offense scoring touchdowns, which they had been settling for a lot of field goals the last season, plus now at this point, the defense, as you noted, slowing down one of the best offenses in the league right now. So find me something that maybe you want to see them work on coming out of this game. That's the tougher question.
Well, I mean, the one thing you have to look at, unfortunately, is Harrison Butker. He had the missed PAT, and he kicked well after that. But obviously, there's a little something there. He's not had a year like this, I think, ever. I think he's maybe missed 3 PATs already, and I'm not sure 2 or 3 field goals somewhere in there. So if you're going to find something, it's going to be that. But in general, this is a hard game offensively and defensively to really poke any holes in because, I mean, Nick Bolton played fabulously in what he did. Leo Chanel continues to impress, and Drew Tranquil. Those 3 linebackers, I think, for the Chiefs is one of the best trios they've had in some time. And then, really you have to also talk about, Josh Simmons did not play last night because of personal reasons. I don't know what that is, so I really can't discuss it. But so the backup tackle, I forgot his name, but he plays a clean game, left tackle. They paid him good money to come over from 49ers. So that's a good sign also because you always want to have a swing tackle ready to go. And so just all in all, a great night. And of course, at Arrowhead, they're always great.
Yeah, you're right about that. I had a guy come up to me at the he didn't come up to me at the urinal. That sounds creepy, but he's in a Lions jersey. He's looking at me, turns, and he says, "Boy, this place is loud as bleep," is what he says to me last night, standing at the urinal during halftime. And Detroit gets loud. I mean, you know that. Detroit gets loud, so that was quite a compliment. Not that we're surprised by that, but it's always interesting to hear from the opposing fans.
Yeah, it is. And I think people have a good time. I think Chiefs fans are really good about welcoming everybody in also and are proud of what we have there. And then obviously you get into the game and, scuffles break out or you just got a lot of talk going on. But that's just good fun in general for rivalries and just games in general. But, yeah, this is a special place. And I think most people, when they come in, they definitely recognize it.
Yeah. All right. So, you mentioned Butker there, Kendall, and as someone who spent a large part of your career with special teams, long snapping, things like that, I would imagine you have some insight into how these kickers think, maybe more so than the average player does. Is this like a golfer having just the yips? And if so, what can be done about it?
Yeah, I'm not certain. That's probably a fair way to put it. I think it's a mental thing. I mean, he's so cerebral. I think he'll figure it out. But that one that he missed hard. He just didn't hit it well. I'm not sure what went on there. And ever since he had his knee injury, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, he's had a few issues with things every once in a while. I think maybe he had to change up how he planted or something to maybe help that out. So I don't know if it has anything to do with that or not. But it really doesn't matter. What it comes down to is you've just got to get it shored up and be ready to go. And I think lots of times you say the yips. I'll go ahead and say yes, because it does become kind of a mental thing, or it can be anyhow, rather.
Yeah, and that's it. Just seems like that position in football is almost more mental than any other position because you can get in your own head so easily. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it is, because anybody who's played golf understands how much you can get in your own head about trying to just recreate that swing each and every time. And, when you just talk about it, it's just easy. It's just like, just hit the ball straight. Well, that's just not as easy as it seems. And it's the same thing for kicking. You're kicking a ball off the grass. You've got 11 people trying to rip your throat out, and everybody's depending upon you. Sometimes, you've got to be mentally tough to play in this league, and certainly to be a kicker.
What did you make of the fight after the game where it looked like one of the Lions players went after Juju, and Dan Campbell, the head coach of the Lions, did apologize on behalf of his team for the scuffle that ensued after the game? But, you've been there, obviously, where you're hot and it's emotional on the field after a game. But what was your assessment of what took place there?
Well, my first assessment is it's going to be expensive for him, because he will get fined. I have no doubt about that. I think that is Pete, I think that's emotions running over. It was a big game. Detroit really wanted this one. There was probably some background that we don't know about, either during the game or even farther back. But yeah, that's something that just can't happen. I mean, you get heated, but you've got to be, you're a pro. You got to be able to control yourself, and especially after the game where it does nobody any good. And kudos, you mentioned it, Dan Campbell, how he was like, this is unacceptable. And he made it clear that he was going to be punished, and that's just not something. Said that he had already apologized to the Kansas City Chiefs. So class act by him. You can't help but like that coach. And, that's just a rough one, because Detroit came in, 4-1, felt like they were going to win that game. And for whatever reason, he got frustrated, and it boiled over after the game.
All right, Kendall, it's back to a divisional matchup coming up on Sunday. Arrowhead taking on the Raiders, part of this 3-game homestand that started last night. Got the Raiders coming up this weekend, and then Monday night against the Commanders. Rashee Rice is back. How do you think that changes things here starting on Sunday?
I think that's huge, especially when you look at the fact that Kelsey has kind of reemerged a little bit, and Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy have all played well. It's really good, nice. If he comes back and wherever everybody's healthy this week, this will be the first time this whole group of receivers that we were excited about last year even have been on the field together. So this could be big, because everybody inside the organization agrees that, skill-wise, player-wise, with the exception of Mahomes, this is your best skill player that you've got, and he's going to add a lot. And make no mistake, he might be a little bit rusty, but make no mistake, he has fresh legs, and that's you will see it when he gets the ball, because it's just something that you can't deny. Having played the game so many years, when guys were either hurt or held out for a while then come back, you could just see how much more pop they had in their legs than other people.
Kendall Gammon, always good to have him here, especially on a Victory Monday. Kendall, we'll talk to you Friday. Get set for the Raiders. Thanks so much.
Sounds good, Pete. Have a great day.
You as well. Kendall Gammon on KCMO Talk Radio. Great to have him here. Our lead story this morning, the President of the United States, an hour plus into a speech in front of the Israeli parliament, talking about the 20 living hostages who have been freed this morning by Hamas, a historic day in the Middle East. We'll tell you who's saying what about it and what the president has said so far this morning, coming up next on KCMO.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
A historic day. As the president said, the Holy Land is finally at peace. This celebration is happening right now in Tel Aviv. You are seeing the American flag being waved around, of course, with the Israeli flag as well. The president of the United States just wrapping up an hour-long speech. It started at about 6:10 Central Time this morning here in Kansas City. We carried about the first 15 minutes of it, and then we made the executive decision of Trump's not going to stop anytime soon. He was on a heater, man. He was thanking everybody. And you know what? That's a testament to him. He was thanking everybody. He was like the quarterback of the head coach, not taking all the credit, but sharing the love, talking about his teammates. That's what the president did over this hour-long speech. But obviously, not that Trump's one to not toot his own horn. Obviously, he is, and he did that as well, including this moment where he made sure to take a dig at one of his predecessors as well.
Good to say it. But when you settle 8 wars in 8 months, that means you don't like war. Everyone thought I was going to be brutal. In fact, I remember Hillary Clinton during a debate, she said, look at him, he's going to go into war with everybody. And actually, she said, he's got a personality that's all about war. No, and my personality actually is all about stopping wars. And it seems to work. It seems to work. But it also means this name change and our attitude that we're not going to go into a war, but if we do, we're going to win that war like nobody has ever won a war before. We will not be politically correct, but we're not going to be there. And I think, as you mentioned, good.
There you go. That was President Trump, part of this hour-long speech he just gave to the Israeli parliament that just wrapped up here in the last 5 to 10 minutes or so. It was a classic President Trump speech. But he is right to note that all the people who said this guy was unhinged, this goes back to 2016. He was unhinged. He was irresponsible. The world was going to hate us. There was going to be more global conflict because of Donald Trump. They were wrong from 16 to 20, and now through 8-9 months, they're wrong again. This guy continues to prove that peace through strength is actually a policy that works. Not peace through deference. Not going around the globe and apologizing on behalf of America. Not saying, hey, don't worry, we're not here to bother you. Not having pride in what America has been over the last 250 years and being proud of the strength of this military and what America has done for the world over 250 years. No, it's what you want to do is you want to make sure you project that kind of strength to the worst actors on the planet. And that is what President Trump did in this process in ending this war after 2+ years. And this morning, 20 hostages are now back home.
No more peace through placation. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Right?
Yes. I don't know if we got one of those from the president this morning. We'll try to look it up after that hour-long speech. But a big thank you for your attention to this matter from President Trump. And he can break that one out now whenever he wants. This is a bad day for those who have spent years claiming this guy is Hitler. A real bad day. This is the final nail in the coffin of the Hitler dictator nonsense. You see a guy who just addressed the world and said, we are bringing peace to places that, let's be honest, his predecessor could not. Despite the fact that you have former Secretary of State Antony Blinken saying yesterday, it's good that President Trump adopted and built on the plan the Biden administration developed. Are you kidding me? You can't be serious. I mean, this is just... I'm speechless. And that's a problem when you do this for a living. But I'm speechless that anyone would have the audacity to look at what's developed in the Middle East over the last few months and really the last few weeks and come to any conclusion that, thank goodness we had Biden's plan in place. What was the Biden plan exactly? Is anyone clear on what exactly that was outside of building a bridge to nowhere along the coast of the Gaza Strip that cost us, what, like $50 million or something like that? What does that entail? That's just unbelievable that anyone could even come to that conclusion, but I guess I won't put it past anybody. I wouldn't be shocked if that becomes a talking point today on certain cable news channels. You know, none of this would have happened without the Biden administration. Really? What you saw during Biden's 4 years and Obama's 8 years prior to that was these bad actors, especially in the Middle East, having zero respect for American authority on the world stage. None, John.
That's like your broken clock being right 2 times a day. There,
Yes.
I think, right?
That's exactly
in a
what this
left-handed way,
is.
they're correct.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness gracious. What a morning it is as the president is going to now meet with 20-plus world leaders in Egypt. That is where he is off to next. Of course, the government shutdown is now on day 13. But this is an enormous win. I mean, most importantly for Israel and for the world and for the Middle East and for peace in that region. It's a big win for the people of the Gaza Strip as well. Let's be honest. You know, a lot of those people are just victims of their own circumstances. They can't read. They're scared to death of getting killed by the terrorists that run the Gaza Strip. And today, their lives, for all those men, women, and children, they're safer as well, and they're better off. And that's because of the people in charge with this administration. That's indisputable. Coming up, where are we at when it comes to paying our troops? We'll tell you next.
from Overland Park to Parkville. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Pay the damn troops. Got to pay the troops. And it looks like the president of the United States is going to figure out a way to make sure that despite the government shutdown entering its 13th day, the men and women of the United States military are going to get their paycheck. And that is much to the chagrin of Democrats who are hoping that the shutdown would hit October 15th. You would have the military not getting paid, and they would be able to say, oh, Trump, he talks about being a big military guy, and he can't even get the military paid, John.
Boy, they had that big shame flag all set to plant on the moral high ground. That thing's as big as the ones they fly out in front of Perkins. You know, those huge. Yeah. They were all ready, weren't they, to plant that baby?
Oh, they were all lining up. But instead, the president saying over the weekend he has directed the Pentagon to pay military members this week. Despite the fact that the shutdown looks like it's going to go on, I mean, for the foreseeable future, there will be a vote tomorrow by the Senate to try to get to the 60-vote threshold to reopen the government. They can't do it with just Republicans. They got 51 of them. They got to get to 60. So they need Democrats to just open the government and keep the spending levels where they have been for the last several months until mid-November. That's it. That's the simplest explanation for what we're talking about here. It's not rocket science. Keep the government open while they figure out spending plans for next year. That's it. Same levels. There's nothing to negotiate here. But Democrats have decided to shut it down. Like, I'm all in on trying to find what the angle is for the other side on something like this. Like last night, I'm at the Chiefs game, and I saw Mayor Lucas. We just happened to bump into each other. And, you know, we had a pleasant conversation for a half hour. This didn't come up, but my point being, I feel like I'm able to at least see what people I disagree with are going for, what their agenda is. I'm not seeing it on this one. I can't find it anywhere, John.
Because it's not there.
Yeah,
okay?
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with you, brother.
It's not there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even Chuck Schumer yesterday, he was asked about this on one of the Sunday shows. Hey, Trump looks like he's going to figure out a way to pay the military. And Chuck Schumer's like, I don't know about that, because they wanted it to be a political talking point for him here.
Let me raise this to you, Senator. President Trump put out a social...
I can't with Al Sharpton. I can't. I'm trying to not laugh. I'm really trying. I just...
Show some RESPIC.
I'm doing my best here. I really work hard to play these clips. And I love Chuck Schumer, of all places to go on Sunday. Of all the shows he could possibly be on, he's got to go to Al Sharpton. Oh, my goodness.
Social media post just hours ago claiming he has directed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to use available funds to pay the troops on Wednesday. This after Republicans blocked a measure in the House just yesterday to make sure they got paid during the shutdown. What's your response to this development? Assuming the president actually can do this, does it change the negotiations at all?
Right. Democrats, look, we want to pay the men and women in our armed forces, and the quickest way to do it would be for Johnson to come back and negotiate a bill that protects Americans' health care, and then everyone, our soldiers, our and armed service people, the people in the air traffic controllers, the guy who works for the federal government and doesn't make much money cleaning up the floors late at night, they'd all get paid.
Yeah, that's what Chuck should be doing, cleaning up the floors late at night. I mean, that's literally the only job that Chuck Schumer should have in Washington, D.C. at this point, cleaning the floors. Oh, no, we want to get the military paid. Trust me, we absolutely want to make sure. Oh, come on, Chuck.
Right after we talk about health care.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Yes. So here's what's going to happen. In a statement over the weekend, the Pentagon says it has identified $8 billion of unobligated research, development, testing, and evaluation funds from the prior fiscal year that will be used to issue mid-month paychecks to service members if the funding lapse continues. Now, I will say it's somewhat bothersome there's just $8 billion sitting around, that they're just like, I guess we'll use $8 billion for this. But I'll set that aside because at least it gets the men and women of the military paid. But Chuck Schumer does not sound like a happy guy that the military is getting paid here coming up in a couple of days. Because he was hoping that that would be a political punching bag that he could beat up Trump over. The second part of this is what Schumer talked about right there. And it was, well, if only they just came back and talked about health care. The other side of this is that they have admitted, basically in a roundabout way, that Obamacare has been an absolute utter failure. This is about 25 million Americans that are going to lose their Obamacare subsidies. The government has been subsidizing Obamacare because the costs are out of control. The whole point when Obamacare got passed over 15 years ago now was that it was going to lower health care costs and premiums in particular for millions of Americans. Now, the only way to keep those costs in check is if the government subsidizes it, which is what we've been doing for the last few years, which means it's not working. This is common sense. They are freaking out over people who are making six figures losing their Obamacare subsidies. If Obamacare's success relies on six-figure earners requiring subsidies, it's a garbage plan and it's a garbage system. And that's the underlying part of what's going on here with the shutdown. There's why the shutdown's happening, getting to 60 votes in the U.S. Senate, which needs a handful of Democrats to just reopen the government at normal spending levels. Then the second part of the debate is the cost of Obamacare and the subsidies that the Democrats want to have back into the system that Republicans stripped out in the big, beautiful bill. And there's a part of me that wonders this, too. Why wouldn't Democrats just allow the Obamacare subsidies to basically expire, fall by the wayside? Millions of Americans will see their Obamacare costs rise. And then Democrats can say, see, these Republicans took away your subsidies and your health care costs went up because of them. Couldn't they use that as a political weapon as well? Figuratively, of course. Couldn't they use that as a figuratively speaking political weapon? Probably. But the risk there is that suddenly tens of millions of Americans realize that the system is a complete and utter failure. And they may not want to take that risk. That this thing that really they've hung their hat on for 15 years has turned out to be a costly, wasteful failure of an experiment. That was, for many people, they were hoping going to be a trend towards a single-payer, more socialist healthcare system. And now they're looking at it and saying, wow, this thing is costing me an arm and a leg. It doesn't work. It's not affordable. And the options for a lot of people stink. So I don't think they want to play that game right now.
No, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor.
I know.
That's not really
a
criticism, Pete.
They loved that line, didn't they? Oh, gosh, the old Obama line. Yeah. That was all time.
That was a beauty.
Here we are, over 15 years later, and the thing looks to have crashed and burned. And that's why, frankly, we're part of the reason we're sitting here on day 13 of this government shutdown. It is 7:42. It is quite a scene right now in Tel Aviv, where you are seeing Israeli flags and American flags, and you're even seeing some MAGA hats out and about. It is almost 4 o'clock local time in Tel Aviv after the 20 living hostages were released early this morning by Hamas. What a scene we are witnessing right now. The President of the United States gave an hour-long speech this morning to the Israeli parliament and took a well-deserved victory lap as peace for now is coming to the Middle East. Coming up, the good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend. Next hour, Joe Piscopo is going to be here to celebrate Columbus Day with us on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Great to be back on a Monday morning. Victory Monday. Chiefs beating the Lions last night. Sunday Night Football looked like the old Chiefs with the offense actually scoring touchdowns and the defense keeping that high-powered Detroit offense in check last night. Outstanding night at Arrowhead. We'll have more on that coming up this morning, but let's do it.
It's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly.
The good, I could go with the Chiefs, but man, that was good. You know what's great? What's happening this morning in Israel? The 20 living hostages all released. The first 7 hostages returned to Israel at about 1:30 Kansas City time this morning. And then the remaining 13 released by Hamas just a few hours later. If you have not seen the videos, the pictures, they are emotional scenes as the hostages spoke and hugged family for the first time after 738 days in Hamas hell. It was October 7th of 2023 when, of course, 1,200 Jews were slaughtered in the worst day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And just over 2 years later, the remaining living hostages returned home. The bodies of 28 other hostages are still in Hamas and are expected to be released over the next several days. But this has been a historic day for peace in the Middle East and around the world. The president has given an hour-long speech already today to the Israeli parliament, and it was classic Trump. He was asking everybody to stand up. We played a bunch of it early this morning. John and Mark were monitoring it, and I just see Mark laughing in there on and off during the speech because it was just classic Trump. What was he talking about? Jared Kushner, his son-in-law? He's like, good thing. Thank goodness we have Jared. Sometimes I got to bring out his big old brains.
Yes, got to pick his brain.
Ivanka was there as well. He got my daughter to convert. She's now a proud Jew. And who would have seen that coming? He breaks out one of those lines. I'll tell you what, though. Good thing she didn't marry Tom Brady. That was rumored to be a deal for a little bit. Ivanka picked well for her sake and also for world peace. So thank you for Ivanka Trump picking the right man, because Jared Kushner, to his credit, he played a big role during Trump's first term with the Abraham Accords and peace in the Middle East. They have not been involved at all with the administration until Jared Kushner was basically tapped out of the bullpen and brought into these negotiations over the last couple of weeks. And according to Trump, he was there at the Israeli parliament today and got a lot of love from the president of the United States. So a great day for world peace, an incredible day for the Middle East. And as a result, a good day for America as well. When the world is in order, it is better for all of us, right here in Kansas City and around the country. The bad from the weekend. Well, if you didn't see the news, Joe Biden is dealing with some major health issues.
Okay, we're back with a Fox News alert. Former President Joe Biden is now reportedly undergoing radiation therapy for his aggressive prostate cancer diagnosis. The treatment is expected to last 5 weeks, and we will keep you posted on this story, and our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family.
That coming down over the weekend. So that is not good news for the former president at all. Of course, we wish him well. Our thoughts and prayers will be with Joe Biden and his family during this time. See, that's not hard to do. It's not a difficult concept to wish a man well as he goes through a difficult health battle. And that is what Joe Biden is dealing with right now. And, you do wonder how this might look right now if Joe Biden was still in the White House, right? Just where my mind goes right away. Joe Biden clearly is dealing with serious health problems. No one's seen him. No one's really heard from him. And now we find out over the weekend that he is going to be dealing with aggressive treatment for his prostate cancer. So that is a sad sign, and we'll find out more, I'm sure, in the days and weeks ahead. But it looks like the next few weeks in particular are going to be critical for Joe Biden as the former president tries to get his health back on track and deals with that prostate cancer. The ugly from the weekend. I just saw this out of Portland. Mark, wasn't your brother checking out the scene in Portland there in the last few days to see what was going on between ICE and the folks?
Yeah, he was out there last week on the scene about sundown, and it wasn't too crazy.
All right. Well, you should have told him yesterday what was going to happen. If you didn't see this, there was a large group of nude cyclists who showed up outside of the ICE facility in Portland to protest the removal of criminal illegal immigrants. You literally, I'm looking at the video right now. Just a bunch of guys and gals on their bikes. Some had ponchos on because, of course, it was raining because it's Portland. And they're literally on their bikes naked, riding through the streets of Portland, protesting ICE.
The naked bike thing is not new there, but the protest of the ICE is probably new for them.
I mean, they literally, some of them have paint on their bodies that say like fascists and things of that nature. Once again, this is the kind of stuff that gets people hurt, God forbid killed. But there are a bunch of naked people in ponchos in Portland protesting ICE and giving the middle finger to the ICE building. This is a horrible look. Some of them are on like little mopeds.
Well, the adults are in charge there, aren't they? It's right. It's just an excuse. It's never about the cause.
I know.
Right?
I know. It's an excuse. You're right. There's one person I'm looking at here, naked, wrapped in a blanket on a bike with a gas mask. I'm not sure that's a look I've seen before. The nude blanket gas mask look is quite a visual. There's also a guy here, naked, riding a unicycle, wearing a Darth Vader helmet, playing the bagpipes.
That's actually talent right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, get him on America's Got Talent. Is that show still on the air? I don't know. He missed his calling.
Oh, yeah.
He missed his calling. Oh, my goodness. And here's the other part, too. I'm looking at this sign on the side of the road in Portland. It says, "We dream of a world without borders, free Palestine." Well, these people should be happy today. All right, there's peace between Hamas and Israel. These people should be wearing MAGA hats today. But of course not. No. Because once again, their arguments just make no sense whatsoever. But it is quite a scene of who's who. I just can't imagine what group of people thinks that parading around with their sagging man boobs and real boobs, their pasty white butts and cellulite is a cool and effective way to fight the power. Oh, we're going to show them. Really? This is how you're going to do it? Geniuses, I'll tell you. Real geniuses. So there's your good, bad, and ugly. I didn't think I'd be breaking out the word moobs this morning, but here we are. Mark's got his Mariners hat on, so, you know, he's standing in solidarity with his friends down in Portland.
Having a great day. Mariners won last night. Chiefs won. It's a great day.
Yeah, and these people in Portland are doing their thing as well. Go figure. There's your good, bad, and ugly. Coming up, the Washington Post is calling out something that we tried to do in Kansas City. We'll tell you what that is next. Well, the Washington Post should have just come to Kansas City for part of this big editorial board piece that they wrote, ripping the likely next mayor of New York City. It's 8:05 on a Victory Monday here in Kansas City. Glad to have you here on KCMO. So I never thought I'd be giving props to the Washington Post editorial board, but I will. The only mistake they made is not looking at how things have gone here in Kansas City and using that to make their point. So this dropped over the weekend. The Washington Post editorial board ripped Democratic Socialist New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. Of course, a lot of people around the country have been looking at that race and questioning what it means for the country's largest city and also for the future of the Democratic Party. But the Washington Post said that his pie-in-the-sky proposal to eliminate bus fares would only benefit the city's homeless and drug users. The Washington Post writing here in an op-ed yesterday, vagrants and drug addicts would camp out all day on New York's buses, especially in the winter. The board predicted parents would grow afraid to let their children ride alone. Well, why don't you guys just come and study what happened here in Kansas City, where we implemented free bus fare in the wake of the Summer of Love in 2020. And this was something that Kansas City was trending towards for a while because we had the ridiculous free streetcar. That is not free. It's just subsidized by the taxpayer. But Kansas City knows that, if they charge for that streetcar, no one's going to ride it. I mean, even less people that currently ride it are going to ride it. So they got to justify it by having it be free, air quotes, even though there's no free lunch. But that's a bad look because if you got the streetcar that's free for people out of town and people coming in from Johnson County and, people of means downtown, and then you're charging the working poor people a couple of bucks to ride the bus, what does that look like? That's the problem in politics. No one ever thinks, 2 steps ahead. So they're like, all right, fine, we'll just make it all free. The buses can be free too. And what do you know? You got people who are going on the buses who are now packing heat. You got bus drivers now packing heat on these buses in Kansas City because they don't know who's going to step on that bus and what their intentions are going to be. You do have homeless people and vagrants and drug users all over the Kansas City bus system. There has been some reporting on this locally, not as much as there should be, in my opinion. But, if you're someone who has been in that situation, you just reach out to me. And if you want to be anonymous, that's fine. You can text in at 913-408-7957, or you can call in. But what I do know is this. The free bus has not led to more people using the bus. Cost aside, since COVID, we have not topped the number of riders on the KCATA. Think about that. It is free, and the ridership is less than it was before COVID. Ask yourself why that might be. And if you say, well, it's because more people are working from home, that's true in white-collar jobs. Listen, the people who are riding the buses are not doing work-from-home jobs. You know that, and I know that. So please spare me that whole thing. It's because people are voting with their feet, and they're saying, I'm not going to ride this thing. I'm not going to risk getting on this bus. I will walk. I will take an Uber. I will find another form of transportation. I will get myself a car. But just because the bus is free and we put the word free on something doesn't mean it's a good policy. Doesn't mean it's going to work. In fact, oftentimes it means it's going to get worse. Look at the government shutdown right now. That's all tied to Obamacare. What were we told? That was going to be a great thing for the American people. It was going to reduce the cost of health insurance. And here we are 15 years later arguing over how much we should subsidize a system that is becoming unaffordable for everyday Americans and Americans who are making 6 figures who need their Obamacare subsidized. Not the working poor here. We're talking about people making 6 figures who need their Obamacare subsidized. Ask yourself why on that. So all this stuff ties together. The Washington Post went on to mock Mamdani for brushing off nearly $800 million his plan would cost the city each year, saying on the editorial board of the Washington Post, oh, is that all, sarcastically? noting that the candidate has proposed a number of pricey improvements to New York City's bus system that he wants to implement if elected, including service upgrades, new loading zones, and dedicated bus lanes citywide. See, here's what they never think about big picture. And I would say the same thing for Kansas City with the bus system. While Kansas City's only 500,000 people in the city limits compared to 8 million people in New York City, you can't change human nature. New York's problem would be much worse and on a much larger scale than what Kansas City has dealt with, just because it's 16 times the size of Kansas City when it comes to city limits. But you can't change human nature. Making stuff free doesn't mean that you just get the best of the best. Doesn't mean that just regular working day people are the only people that are going to get on a bus, whether it's in New York or Kansas City. It doesn't change the reality of human nature, which is that people who are struggling, who are addicted, who are on the streets, are going to say, if I can get on this warm bus in the middle of January and sit there, I'm going to do it. And that means they're bringing all their problems with them, which means the people that you insist that you're trying to help here, because let's be honest, the rich people don't ride the bus. They're the ones who have their service impacted by all this. They're the ones who end up losing out of all this. Like so many of these policies supposedly about helping the working men and women, they actually hurt those very people that they insist they're trying to help. It's true on healthcare. It's true on stuff they claim is going to be free. It's true on their housing policy. All of these things end up hurting the little guy. And if they try this in New York City, the results will be obviously much worse than they are in Kansas City just because of size and scope. And they may have to ultimately learn the hard way. Just like the world right now. You look at what's going on the world stage. The president of the United States has been in Israel so far today as he has ended the 2-year war between Hamas and Israel. Hostages have been released. And, you know, history does repeat itself. And we are learning today a very important reminder that trying to appease the worst actors on the planet is no way to run foreign policy. That is what we are getting reminded of again this morning as the president is taking a victory lap overseas. You see his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, right behind him right now. They are on the tarmac in Israel at the airport, getting set to board Air Force One. You see Ivanka Trump as well, and those two have kept a pretty low profile during this second Trump administration until this morning. Mike Huckabee is there as well, so this is quite a scene. But also a reminder, when you try things that fail, don't do it again. And for the last 4 years, prior to the president getting back in the White House, there was an attempt at appeasement. It failed, just like it did during the Obama years. And now, peace through strength is back on the table. It is working. And there is, for today, 20 hostages back home with their families and peace in the Middle East. So that is a welcome sign, and it is a historic day in that part of the world, as we've been covering all morning long here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO. It also is Columbus Day. Our good buddy, proud Italian-American Joe Piscopo of Saturday Night Live fame is going to be here in 20 minutes. That is also your first chance of the week to win $1,000 with a text-to-win keyword at 8:34, all on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM, and you can stream us all morning long as well on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
from Smithville to Shawnee Mission. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
I'm at the point where I would not pick up Woody's feces with the Kansas City Star because I think that would actually be insulting to my dog's poop. I really do. I just read this in the Kansas City Star. I wanted to make sure I was up to speed on what they were writing about this morning, and shame on me, but, my doctor told me to not read the Star before 8 a.m. It just wouldn't be good for my blood pressure, so I try not to look at it prior to 8 a.m. So, 8:15, I figure, let me just check out what's going on. And they had this piece here, a special to the Star, headline, Did Charlie Kirk's murder change minds on guns and the Second Amendment? And the piece is written by a professor of psychology at KU. His name is Chris Crandall. And the president-elect of the Society for Personality and Social Psychology, Kelly Swanson, a graduate student in psychology at the University of Kansas. So a couple of psych wackos at KU are writing a piece to the Kansas City Star, and I'm sure you know how this is going to go, right? This is not going to shock you. But they start out the piece saying that on September 10th, conservative activist Charlie Kirk was murdered in Utah with a rifle commonly used for hunting. The murder drew condemnation across the political spectrum and led to a predictable debate about the value of guns. They go on to basically write here that the Charlie Kirk assassination did not change people's opinions on guns. It didn't change the way conservatives look at guns. It didn't change the way liberals look at guns. And it didn't change the way independents look at guns. Okay. I'm not shocked by that, are you? But this is what really stood out to me and bothered me. They write here that Charlie Kirk had been remarkably honest about the value of gun access. He acknowledged that some deaths every year were the price of the Second Amendment, a price he paid himself. That's a lie. Charlie Kirk was not killed because we have the Second Amendment. We don't have all the information, first off, on how this young man, got this gun. Of course, we believe he was walking with this gun in his pants. It appeared to be a family weapon. This person did not have any kind of a background that would suggest that he could not own that gun. So you tell me, what law would you have enacted that would have prevented this person from accessing that weapon with no real track record? It's the same thing in Minneapolis with those poor kids a few weeks back. You had somebody who went out there and bought that weapon who had no background to suggest they could not buy that weapon in a state in Minnesota that has red flag laws. So no, Charlie Kirk was not a victim of the Second Amendment and a robust Second Amendment. He was a victim of dangerous rhetoric that had been permeating against himself, the president, and millions of conservatives for several years now. When you believe your political opponents are fascists and mini little Hitlers, you get people who are mentally deranged that then act on that. And when that stuff gets mainstreamed, this is the result, tragically. Charlie Kirk's assassination was not about a Second Amendment and having a Second Amendment and having access to weapons. The access to weapons was the fallout of what got Charlie Kirk killed. But it was not the reason that Charlie Kirk lost his life at all. To suggest that every murder that happens is somehow the result of having a Second Amendment in America is so disingenuous. We were just talking about the bus system, right? We were just talking about how New York City might have free buses. Kansas City's tried it. It's been, I believe, an abject failure. You can disagree with that if you want, but, there's not a lot of evidence to back you up when ridership has not passed levels from pre-COVID, despite there being more people living in Kansas City. Same thing with this. Same thing with the gun issue. Every single time it comes up, people want to point the finger at the same exact thing over and over and over again. And that's not what this story is about. But leave it to a couple of psych wackos at KU, who then the Kansas City Star publishes, and they put out there this morning in the newspaper, and this is the kind of stuff that you get. And even by their standards, I was surprised. But to basically blame Charlie Kirk for his own murder is as disgusting as it gets. They never want to say, hey, what led to somebody picking up a weapon that gets used all the time as a tool? I mean, most guns obviously are not used to break the law in this country. There's hundreds of millions of guns right now circulating in America. The vast majority, 99.99% of them, are not used to do bad things. But that's immediately where they want to go. Ask yourself why. So Kansas City Star doing what it does, but that, even by their standards, was bad. And I promise you, Woody, when I get home today, if I'm at a doggy bags, I will not use a Kansas City Star to pick up your number 2. I just won't do it, pal. That would be an insult to what's coming out of your body. That just wouldn't be fair, my man, at all. We are looking at the President of the United States departing Israel. He is now going to Egypt for a peace summit. The President of Peace. That's what he likes to call himself. And you know what? He's right. I know he ended 8 wars. He's talking about the 8 wars in 8 months. And I don't care if it's 5, 6, 7, or 8. But you know what? The President of the United States he's on a heater right now when it comes to overseas affairs. So he's leaving Israel. He gave an hour-long speech to the Israeli parliament this morning. He now is going to Egypt for a peace summit. And he is expected to speak there as well. When does this guy sleep, man? I mean, I came in here a little groggy this morning after being at the Chiefs game last night. Didn't get to bed until about 11 o'clock. You come home, you're kind of wired. You got to calm down. Your ears are ringing. And then I turn around for a 4 o'clock wake up, and I'm like, okay, oh boy, I'm feeling it a little bit. I'm half of Trump's age, less than half of Trump's age. This guy's 80, and his body clock is like 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know where he slept, if at all, in Air Force One. And now he's just like, all right, gave an hour-long speech in Israel. Now I'm going to Egypt. And, what's next after that, John? He just doesn't end it, man.
A lot of people want to see me. Got to get out there and see the folks.
Shake the hands, kiss the babies.
I imagine that's what he's thinking. A lot of people want to see me.
Yep, and there we go. Air Force One is literally taking off the runway right now, going from Israel to Egypt for this peace summit. So we will be monitoring this all morning long on what has been a historic morning here on KCMO Talk Radio and around the world. 95.7 FM, of course, is where you listen to us. And if you are off today for Columbus Day, you can stream us on the KCMO Talk Radio app, or just tell your Alexa or your Google Home to play KCMO Talk Radio, and you can listen to us in the house from the home office, whatever you're doing today, if you are off for Columbus Day. And I know that many of you are, although the kids are in school this morning. So coming up, speaking of Columbus Day, Joe Piscopo is going to be here, a proud Italian-American of Saturday Night Live fame. He is now a talk show host in New York City. Of course, they have the big Columbus Day parade today, so that is happening there. And Joe is kind enough. He loves Kansas City. He's been here before in the old studios, in the old building. He came here once to do his show, and we hit it off and became friends after that. He said he would join us here at some point this morning to give us a lay of the land and to also talk about the President of the United States and how he, of course, has brought back Columbus Day. As he famously said last week, we love the Italians. We love them. So we'll talk to Joe Piscopo about Indigenous Peoples Day being out and Columbus Day being back in coming up next.
We love the Italians.
from Lenexa to Lee Summit. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
What a day it is. Columbus Day across the country. And as an Italian American myself, I thought to myself, who better to bring on this Columbus Day than the great Joe Piscopo? Of course, you know him from his Saturday Night Live days, and now, of course, hosting the Joe Piscopo Show on AM 970. The Answer, right there in New York City. Well, Joe, we appreciate you hopping on with us in Kansas City. Hey, what's it like? Trump's back in the White House. He's fired up about Columbus Day. How is that resonating there in New York, my friend?
You know, it's huge and epic. And it's, of course, we're concentrating on the hostages and hoping everybody comes home safely, Pete, and great to hear from you, my dear friend. But I got to tell you, in April, I don't think we chatted about it, but President Trump was kind enough to jump on my radio show. So I got the word from the Italian American folks in Washington. We need President Trump at our 50th anniversary gala at National Italian American Foundation. So they go, Joe, could you ask the president? Like, of course, I will call him in a moment. Let me put you on hold. I'll get right back to you. Really, what do they think? But now I book the interview with the president, and we have everybody. I did it from my home, Pete. I did at my home studio. I had three people in New York, and then I had the gal that works for us in direct line with the White House. When you do those things, it's out of respect. You don't want to mess it up, Pete, right?
Yep.
So I'm going, okay. So now in my head, I got the invitation. You'll appreciate this. I hope you will, Pete. And happy Columbus Day. Hold on. So now I'm waiting at the mic, and then I hear the operations manager in New York go, okay, Joe, good to go. And I hear the president go, hello, Joe. And I said, Mr. President. And he goes, Joe, an honor to be with you. Like that. But now we've known each other so long. So what comes out of my mouth? Mr. President, we'd like to invite you to the National Italian American Foundation 50th anniversary, sir, if you're available. It just came out, man. And because I'm a cool guy. What am I going to tell you? It just came out. Well, he's so good. He goes, Joe, I love the Italians. The Italians are always there for me. They voted for me. I love the Italians. And he goes, you know what? We need Columbus Day back. We need Columbus Day. He says it there in April. And I go, Mr. President, you're right. We appreciate that more than we could tell you. He goes, it's Columbus Day. For me, it'll always be Columbus Day like that. He does not forget. Cut to a few days ago, he signs the executive order to really solidify Columbus Day in America. And, in there you saw it in the cabinet room there. And I got to tell you something. This is why I feel so good. And in many, many ways, we are in the golden age of politics with President Trump. Who remembers that, Pete? Who says that and then sticks to it? That was all those months ago. So now we are pumped up in New York because we got certification from the President of the United States. It is Columbus Day. No statues are coming down. Hey, I got to tell you, everybody's saying that when the quote he did the other day, like he said on my radio show, I love the Italians. I love the Italians like that, right? So that has.
Good.
Yeah, I love the Italians, boom. And it's like, I can't tell you. And if you're listening, it's not just the Italians. It's every ethnic group in America. It's all the ethnicity. And we're the foundation and the fabric of this great country. And the thing with the Italians, they try to take our statue down. They never give us the respect that we need. Yeah, and my grandparents didn't get nothing then when they came to America. They got nothing. They didn't get any entitlement programs, And the largest mass lynching you and I have talked about was in New Orleans of Sicilian Americans, And so it was great. So we are really excited this year. Really, really excited. And we
Well, we've come a
appreciate,
long way. You
yeah.
mentioned it there, Joe Piscopo. Just a few years ago, it was Columbus Day was going away. Indigenous Peoples Day was coming in. They were taking down statues, renamed
That's it.
Columbus Circle there in New York. And
That's
it
it.
feels like the tide has totally shifted. How recognizable is that on the ground where you are, Joe Piscopo, in New York City on Columbus Day?
We own it. We own it. And I'm telling you what, it's like I did just yesterday, I was on with Rachel Campos Duffy to talk about Columbus Day, and she goes, "Don't forget." She goes, she's Hispanic. She goes, "It was the Spanish folks that financed it." I go, "Okay, okay, we'll give you that." But you know what? I could talk about it, and then I talked about what I just told you. It's just been great. So again, and just this morning, and I wanted to make sure I had time to catch up with you, Pete. But we did 4 hours from the Columbus Citizens Foundation. This is one of the premier Italian American organizations in the world out of New York. And then, we're about to do 3 hours of the parade, but and weather's going to be nuts, but rain or shine, we're just going for it. And we feel it. We own it, man. It is our time. And it took them threatening to take down the statue. It took them, whoever they are, all those people to take away the holiday for us to all join together. So listen, I appreciate you mentioning it in the middle of America, my brother. It's very, very important. Means a lot to us, Pete.
Well, and you think about it too. Kansas City does have an underratedly strong Italian presence. Many came from New Orleans and found their way up this way. St. Louis is very similar, but Kansas City has it as well, maybe to a bit of a lesser degree. But you're at the hub of it there in New York City. The Italian heritage and legacy in this country can be defined by what, in your opinion, Joe Piscopo?
Work ethic. It's all I know is when my grandparents came from Avellino, and I have family from all over Italy, but we always say Avellino. That's where the bulk of the family comes from. They got in steerage on the Moltke, which is a German freighter that my grandpa Rosario came over on. They knew people here. They just took a shot, and they came and they just started working from day one, and they never stopped. And that's it. Whether my grandfather was a hatter. He was skilled. He was a skilled worker. He was a hatter. So he would make hats when everybody wore hats. And then even after he retired in his 70s, he ran an elevator, man, because it was the work ethic. I think about on my mom's side, all my mother's brothers were engineers, and the girl, she comes from a family of 10 kids, and my grandpa was a factory foreman, and they just were. It's the work ethic. But then where does it stem from? I think it stems from our moms and grandmoms and the kitchen or dining room table. It comes from that. And it comes from church. That was the upbringing. It was all like family, God, the new country, America. But it starts with a work ethic and not asking for a handout. I'm not, listen, I have a soft spot for migrants everywhere because of what my grandparents went through. But man, we didn't ask for nothing, my brother. We didn't ask for nothing. And they just worked. And let me just go on, if I may, on this Columbus Day, and I know you know the story, is where my grandparents come over from Avellino. They have a couple kids. One of their sons, my dad, goes into the army, drafted to fight Italy, not for Italy, to fight Italy in the Second World War. And he spent 4 years in Italy clearing out all those villages that the Nazis took over. The Nazis took, if you had fish, if you had livestock, the Nazis took everything. And my pop went to put the bombs on those B-24 Liberators to go in and bomb the heck out of Adolf Hitler. And think about it, his parents were from there. Nowadays, when people come to our country now, they wave the flag of the country they come from, and then they expect us to live like that country. I mean, it's unconscionable. It's a
It
work
is.
ethic. It's a love of country. God plays a big part of it. The faith is strong with the Italian American community, and you know what, man, you and me, you're a lot younger than I am, but I got to tell you something, brother. The older I get, it's all about my parents and my grandparents. Joe, why do you work so hard? Everybody my age is just like retired or dead, Pete. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm keeping going because it's all in the name of my family, sir.
Well, that's great. Last thing, Joe, you mentioned it there. You come to America and you don't forget where you came from. You love your culture and where you came from, but you're an American. And I've told this story many times. My grandpa, when he was a kid in the 1930s, this would have been, he's a first generation American. He runs out of a grocery store, Joe, when his mother speaks to him in Italian because he's embarrassed by her speaking the native tongue. He wanted to be an American, Joe, and that's what we're losing here. We love where we came from. We love our culture and our history, but we are Americans first and foremost, Joe Piscopo.
That's right. American Italians is really probably the right way to say it, as my friend Chaz Palminteri says it. And you're right. My parents did not allow us to speak Italian in the household. They when they didn't want us to hear what they were saying, they would talk Italian. Or my father was really great with his flourish of profanity in Italian, Pete. But yeah, aside from that, they wanted us to speak English to learn the laws and the language of the new country that they know as America.
I love it. Joe Piscopo, it's Columbus Day. You're at the heart of it there in New York City, of course,
Yeah,
every
man.
morning on AM 970, The Answer. Hey, Joe, thank you for fitting us in Kansas City on KCMO. Have a great Columbus Day there in New York City.
Thanks for keeping the heritage alive, Pete Mundo. God bless you, brother.
There you go. Joe Piscopo. Always good to have him on KCMO. And this just dropping in the last couple of minutes, a post on social media from the State Department. Today, we celebrate the legacy of American hero Christopher Columbus. May his courage and intrepid spirit spur Americans to reach for new frontiers and bring glory to God and country. That from the United States Department of State, with a big picture of Columbus saying, celebrating the legacy of an American hero. There you go. Columbus Day is back, baby.
We love the Italians.
Coming up next, let's get to it. The mayor of Kansas City was at Arrowhead last night. I happened to just bump into him. We had a nice, pleasant conversation. But I gave him a hard time about something that he did this weekend. I'll tell you what it was coming up next.
from Leawood to Liberty. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
So I wasn't expecting to, but last night, Kate and I went to the game. We saw the Chiefs, of course, beat the Lions in what was just a nice bounce-back win for Kansas City after that Monday night loss in Jacksonville. And I happened to bump into Mayor Lucas, and I knew I was going to talk about this today on the show, so I gave him a hard time about it last night. Because I'm one of those people where I will basically say anything I'm going to say on the show to your face. I think that's the right way to go about doing this. And I said to the mayor last night, I said, I saw you joined the Bulwark podcast. Now, if you don't know the Bulwark, it is an online publication founded by Bill Kristol and Charlie Sykes. They are two guys who were longtime neoconservatives, who got super triggered by Trump, and now they're just like the darling of the left, and their online publication is called The Bulwark. Like, Bill Kristol was all about John McCain. He loved the Iraq War. He said it was going to be a 2-month war, and obviously that was not true. This guy loved involving American troops overseas. And his track record on foreign policy is not all that good. So he gets triggered by Trump, all mad at Trump. I wonder what he's thinking today as Trump solves world peace in the Middle East. But, we'll save that for another day. Anyway, he starts this online publication called The Bulwark. And they're basically just a never Trump operation. That's what they are. And listen, they can be that. That's fine. They're entitled to do that. Totally cool. I don't think the business model is all that strong, but they go on MSNBC and some of the other places once in a while to get their jollies. So Quentin Lucas was on their podcast, and I'll play for you what he said. But first, I said to him last night, I said, what are you joining the Bulwark for? And he's like, I don't even know what that is. I just got asked to do it. I'm like, no. Stop with that. I'm like, come on. It's a never Trump operation. He's like, I just get asked to do these media interviews, and I do them. I'm like, come on. I kind of rolled my eyes at him. But anyway, he goes on the Bulwark podcast. They share this as a YouTube short. And the mayor was asked, as a blue mayor in a red state, what his thoughts were on the president utilizing the National Guard in major American cities. We know about Chicago. We know about, Memphis. I would say bring them to Kansas City, but I'm not the mayor. Here's what Quentin Lucas told the Bulwark.
How do you, as a Democratic mayor in a blue city in a red state, think about the deployment of National Guard?
I go with it in a few steps. Step one, this is just totally idiotic. So I was in Washington recently, and I was, forget which circle I was by. You guys have lots of them, right? And I saw the National Guard walking in threes, kind of just looked like they were hanging out. And I said, I feel no safer. This doesn't really seem like a good use of their time and isn't really changing anything, at least in the area I was in Washington. Indeed, there was a homeless guy actually sleeping on the church step, like, just a few feet away, kind of like, hey, everybody, right? So you didn't even change on the ground conduct. Maybe this would all just be a laughable vignette into America in 2025 if it didn't have a cost, which is a substantial multi-million-dollar cost to the American people. And second, if it didn't have a negative impact on local community law enforcement relations. So step one, this should not be happening. It should be something that is collaborative and at the request of communities. And so that's where I go from there.
So he's playing to the camera there with the Bulwark. That's what they want to hear, right? I mean, that's it. That's what they want to hear. The Bulwark is a never Trump online outlet, and they wanted to find a blue mayor in a red state who is going to basically crap all over the president using the National Guard in major American cities. But I can't imagine turning down and making fun of what is really a generous offer to help keep your citizens safer and fix the mess many of these mayors are incapable of fixing. Just process that for a second, right? Kansas City's dealt with its deadliest half-decade in modern history. I don't care who it is. You want to send the National Guard, you want to have ICE agents, whoever you want to have that's in law enforcement, that's helping out Kansas City, saying no to that over politics is not looking out for the best interests of the citizens of any community. And I understand the politics here. I get it. We've talked about it extensively since this became a local and national topic over the last few weeks. The politics of it are one thing, but then you actually step back and you look at the reality of what's going on here in this country and around the country and in major American cities over the last few years. And it's like, anything is better than nothing. And suddenly people who are fans of the Inflation Reduction Act and jacking up inflation 20% the last 5 years are going to worry about the cost of anything? Come on. $37 trillion in debt, whistling past the graveyard, and now we're going to nickel and dime on the cost of having a few National Guards troops in major American cities? Spare me. Who's buying that? So the mayor and I talked about this last night. We had the conversation. I'm like, stop, do not join the bulwark. Please, don't do it. I saw what you said. Don't join the bulwark. And, he played it off like he didn't know what he was doing. And, yeah, I kind of appreciate that in some respects. But I told him, I said, it's on my agenda for the morning. And I'm hoping that figure by 9 o'clock, he was up and at it after a long night at Arrowhead last night. But we did agree. And he did admit that he gets more anecdotal feedback joining this show than any other radio hit he does in Kansas City. And I told him that's because we're kicking butt when it comes to ratings and listenership in this town, more so than any of our competitors. And I think he was a little surprised by that, but then again, he wasn't, which I appreciate. 9 o'clock hours coming up on KCMO Talk Radio. It has been a historic day in the Middle East. What do you need to know, and what did you miss from the early morning hours? Next. You know, they called him a fool. They called him a madman. They mocked him as a clown. They smeared him as a warmonger. They said American leadership was over. And today was another day where President Trump proved them all wrong. That's right.
Wrong.
Good morning, 9:05 on a busy Monday morning, a historic Monday morning, as the 20 living hostages were returned in the early morning hours here in Kansas City to Israel from Hamas. And the president gave an hour-long address to the Israeli parliament after these 20 hostages alive in Gaza returned to Israel, closing a chapter on this 2-year war. It is once again a reminder that as we sit here on a Monday morning and look at the world stage, the world is a safer place and the world is a more peaceful place because of this president, because of Donald Trump. Despite everything they said that he was going to do, going back to 2016, Hillary Clinton used some of these allegations. He's crazy, man. Oh, boy, you just wait. There's going to be chaos all over the world with President Trump. You remember that well, John. Same thing with Biden.
The subtext, of course, being he's going to rat us all out. He's crazy.
He's going to prove us all wrong.
Yeah.
And then Biden did it. And then Kamala Harris did it as well. But you know what? We are living through it here. We literally A/B tested this whole thing on the world stage. You have 4 years of President Trump from 16 to 20, where you did have far more peace around the world. We then took a 4-year break, made a 4-year mistake. And what did you see? From the withdrawal in Afghanistan to the Russia-Ukraine war to then October 7th in Israel, what you saw was the most evil people on the planet act out when Joe Biden was in office.
Let's not forget our friends in China.
Yes.
And Taiwan.
And they were absolutely screwing around as well. And then over the last 8-9 months, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not suggesting there is not still work to do. Of course, Russia-Ukraine is the big one that the president has been frustrated by. He even said over the weekend on Air Force One, he's more surprised he got this done before he got Russia-Ukraine done, which tells you what a madman Putin has turned into. But we are sitting here with, for now, and of course that's the key phrase, relative peace in the Middle East, hostages from Israel back home, and we have American flags and MAGA hats being waved around Tel Aviv. That's what we have going on. Even Wolf Blitzer, who's got the permanent constipation look on his face, was admitting as much over the weekend.
And, of course, endless applause for President Trump. Endless applause for President Trump.
And when I was there, I even saw people wearing Make America Great Again hats in that crowd over at Hostage Square.
You think Wolf Blitzer normally looks constipated? You should have seen the look on his face when he said that on the air. he was really just, oh boy, he was clenching those teeth, man.
Used to be a commercial that would say, "Where will you be when your laxative kicks in?" Kind of like that.
That's exactly what he looked like. But this is not about left versus right. It's not about Republican, Democrat. It's not conservative, liberal. Okay, if you are someone who has been like, rah, rah, free Palestine, if that's been your mantra over the last couple of years, you have to be encouraged by what's happening today. This is a win for everybody. Yes, Israel is getting its hostages back. But you know what? The people in Gaza are better off today on the Strip. Let's not forget. I mean, we all should have sympathy for a lot of these people in Gaza. They can't read. They're scared to death of losing their lives, of their kids getting killed, of, God knows what these awful terrorists that run the Gaza Strip are going to do to them at any given point in time. Yes, their lives have been upended. And while I'm staunchly in support of, what Israel has done to defend itself over these last couple of years, I still have incredible sympathy for the innocent people, especially in the Gaza Strip, who don't really have an understanding as to what's going on because of the propaganda, because of their lack of education, and the brainwashing and the fear that they are forced to live under. They are better off today. They are safer today. they can hopefully get to some semblance of a rebuild today because of the peace deal that has been negotiated by this president, by President Trump leading the way. And during his hour-long speech this morning, he did give a lot of credit to those around him, Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, and even his son-in-law, who worked extensively with him during the first administration. But for this administration, Jared and Ivanka have mostly stayed on the sidelines until Trump had to basically tap Jared out of the bullpen to help him get this deal done.
And let me also give a very special thanks to someone who truly loves Israel. In fact, loves it so much that my daughter converted. My daughter converted. I didn't know this was going to happen. And Ivanka's here.
Ivanka's here. My daughter converted. Oh, boy, we love the Jewish people. We love the Italians on Columbus Day. We love the Jews. We love them all. It was a classic Trump speech. You could tell he was in a good mood while he was giving this speech this morning because this is a critical part of not just his legacy. That's really secondary to what this means for the world, but it's better for all of us today. Like, I understand some people are driving to work and they're like, listen, I got bills to pay. My costs are still too damn high. World peace is good for all of us. It is a reminder that America, when it leads on the world stage through strength, the world is a better place. It means that back here at home, we can refocus energy and attention on other things happening. It is part of the America First agenda. I know there's some belief that the America First agenda has to be all about isolationism. And we just sit here as isolationists. We don't care about what goes on in the rest of the world. That can't be true in 2025. It can't be. First off, you have the faith religious element to what the Holy Land is all about. That matters to Jews and Christians. But secondarily, in a global economy, this is good for all of us. And it hopefully is a step in the right direction towards peace in other conflicts, most notably Ukraine and Russia. Putin's watching this closely. And while it seems like he has totally gone off the deep end and there's really no negotiating to be had, if there's ever an opportunity to reset that conversation, now seems like as good a time as any. And even Donald Trump's biggest critics, like this morning on MSNBC, you got that clip there, Mark? Even this morning on MSNBC, you've got some of his biggest critics out there saying, you know what? We have to give credit where it's due. Here we go.
Yeah, so many questions remain as to whether Hamas will indeed demilitarize, will they give up their weapons? There's a lot of skepticism about that. John Meacham, as we await President Trump, we expect his remarks in the next little bit here, and we'll obviously keep watching the proceedings there in Jerusalem. Just your thoughts. It is a historic day. We don't know if it will be the first chapter of a longer story of peace for the Middle East. The president's trying to frame it that way. We simply don't know. But even just for what today means, give us your thoughts, your perspective.
It's a terrific day for the hostage families. It's a terrific day for President Trump, for our national interests. You're right. We don't know how the story ends, but stories are made up of chapters. As Richard Haas knows, he was very much in the arena now 35 years ago. At the end of the first Gulf War, when there was a great conference in Madrid as we tried to reset the peace process. 9 years later, President Clinton, in the last hours of his presidency, made a noble attempt at Camp David. We can go on and on about the various chapters, but we should make no mistake about this. This is a victory for President Trump and for those who wish that we can govern ourselves at home and around the world, not simply by brute force, but by ideas and civilized norms.
That was this morning on MSNBC. And remember, Hamas no longer has the bargaining chip of hostages. That is a huge part of the future for that region, that they no longer have those hostages as part of a bargaining tool. And while MSNBC is going to do the whole, we don't know what it means. I mean, sure, yes, we don't know. I know Trump speculated last week, this could be peace for 500 years or 3,000 years. I'm going to say it's going to be maybe 3 years while he's in the White House, and God willing, that continues beyond then. We don't know for sure. What we do know is that for today and for the foreseeable short-term future, lives have been saved. The region is safer. The region is more secure. And as a result, the world is safer and more secure than it was just a few short weeks ago. And that is a great win for America. And yes, for the America First agenda. 9:15. It is great to be here on a Monday morning on KCMO in Kansas City. 95.7 FM is where you can set that preset right now on your radio dial on this historic day. The president has left Israel. He is now going to a Middle East peace summit in Egypt. He is on Air Force One, getting set to land in Egypt momentarily. I hope he got some shut-eye. I hope the guy got a little bit of a nap in there. My goodness, it's unbelievable. I'm coming off a short night of sleep being at Arrowhead, and I'm like, dragging it a little bit. This guy, more than double my age, just doesn't stop. It's unbelievable. And he's working on behalf of the American people. All of us. Left, right, in the middle. That is what today is also about. It's one of those days where you should break down the political walls, break down the political colors, and see this for the win that it is. We'll see. If even MSNBC can get there, I've got the hope for the rest of you as well. I really do. 913-408-7957. We take you up until 10 o'clock. Kevin Keatsman, uncanceled, is taking over then on 95.7 FM KCMO.
Hey, it's Vince Gallane's Catch My News Show at 11 o'clock after Kevin Keatsman on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
You know, for Trump, there's a lot going on right now. He has just arrived in Egypt for a peace summit there. I doubt he took a nap. I mean, this guy has got to be just firing on all cylinders right now. The adrenaline's got to be pumping after the big speech in front of the Israeli parliament this morning in the 6 o'clock hour. We aired a bunch of that here on KCMO. What a morning it's been. But now, you know, we do have day 13 of the government shutdown underway. There is a vote tomorrow in the Senate. If Democrats are smart, they will just open up this government, take the loss, and move on. And it will be a loss that is not thought about for long. It's like a preseason loss in the NFL. No one's really going to remember it. I mean, the diehards will remember it. The diehards are going to be like, oh, my gosh, did you see the left guard in the preseason game against the Bears? It's like, okay, what?
Nobody cares.
Nobody is going to remember this thing by Wednesday.
Don't remember the last one.
Exactly. If they're smart, they'll just take the loss and move on. And not only would that be better for the American people, but it would be better for them as well. Like this would, at this point, with the heater that Trump is on right now, don't give him more ammunition. Figuratively, of course. Don't give him more political ammunition. Because right now, he's got the upper hand. He's smoking him on this whole issue with the shutdown. He's also going to get the troops paid. I'll explain how here in a moment. But you guys got to just take this 2-week loss and move the ball down the field and reset your conversation ahead of the midterms next year, John.
Got to read the room, right? When Al Sharpton's pushing back on you, you may be off base.
When Al Sharpton is telling Chuck Schumer, hey, Trump's going to get the troops paid, I'm not sure you guys got a hand to play here. When old Al is questioning your strategy.
He's on it.
You got a problem.
You better be.
Show some RESPICT.
Here he was on MSNBC, Chuck Schumer and Al Sharpton yesterday. Not good. Not good for Big Chuck.
Let me raise this to you, Senator. President Trump put out a social media post just hours ago claiming he has directed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to use available funds to pay the troops on Wednesday. This after Republicans blocked a measure in the House just yesterday to make sure they got paid during the shutdown. What's your response to this development? Assuming the president actually can do this, does it change the negotiations at all?
Right. Democrats, look, we want to pay the men and women in our armed forces, and the quickest way to do it would be for Johnson to come back and negotiate a bill that protects Americans' health care, and then everyone, our soldiers, our and armed service people, the people in the air traffic controllers, the guy who works for the federal government and doesn't make much money cleaning up the floors late at night, they'd all get paid.
Yeah, and, you know, that's the only thing that Chuck should be doing at this point. The only job he's frankly capable of having is being the guy who cleans the floors late at night and not making a lot of money. That's it. And I think Chuck realizes that because of his fear of an AOC primary, he may be relegated to that role if he doesn't stand up, air quotes, to the big bad administration right now. So it seems like a big reason he is doing what he's doing. But now it looks like they're going to be paying the troops here. And that's something that Al Sharpton was referencing there. The Pentagon has found $8 billion of unobligated research, development, testing, and evaluation funds from the prior fiscal year that will be used to issue paychecks coming up here in a couple of days to service members if the government is still shut down. Now, yeah, it does bother me that there's just like $8 billion that they find between the cushions to pay the guys and gals with, but
well, you've seen the price of a toilet seat and a screwdriver there at the Pentagon, right?
That's right.
Over the years,
was it like $120 for a screwdriver?
You've got to have a supply laid in there.
That's a good point.
I don't know if they've got Granger or not,
but for now, at least I'll be glad that they did find $8 billion between the couch cushions to pay the troops this week, because that takes that away from the Democrats to say, well, see, these guys have the government shut down and now the military's not getting paid. Oh, come on. That is so disingenuous. And Schumer's basically playing the card of, I'm not sure he can do that. So they wanted to make sure that the military was not getting paid, to use that as a potential bargaining chip to basically get the Republicans to the table, to get the subsidies back for Obamacare because it's so unaffordable, even six-figure earners can't pay for the premiums without the government kicking in some coin there, John.
And it wasn't that they cared about the military getting paid. They just wanted to use it as a hypocrisy measurement against the right.
Of course. Yes, you're absolutely spot on with that. That was the only purpose of the military not getting paid in their eyes. So they could say, see, the Republicans have power and they've shut down the government and they're not reopening. Well, they need the Democrats to vote for the spending at the same levels they've been at for the last several months. They need to get to 60 votes, which means they need 9 Democrats to vote to keep the government back open. And tomorrow, there is supposedly going to be another vote in the Senate on reopening the government. And at this point, it's the best thing for the American people. It's the best thing for the country. You know, take this loss and just move on. And it won't be a loss anybody remembers in a couple of days. And then what you would do if you were smart as Democrat leadership is make your case on the healthcare issue for, you know, more subsidies, more government spending, socialist medicine. I don't know. I don't agree with it. But that's how you could actually use this politically to your advantage and set the foundation for 26. But they don't think that far ahead. They don't do it. Coming up, we'll tell you what happened here locally on KCMO with our big football game last week next.
KCMO Talk Radio. From Gladstone to Gardner, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
All right, we'll get to what happened in our high school football game of the week. I know a lot of you were asking about that after we told you about some issues on Friday. But first, the president just spoke moments ago with Fox News. He has landed in Egypt after his trip to Israel. He addressed the Israeli parliament. The historic peace deal is done. 20 hostages released this morning. Here's the president moments ago with Fox.
Deal if somebody's sitting over there with a nuclear weapon over your head. And I think when we did that, and there were other obviously very warlike things that we did over the course of 4 or 5 years, if you setting the table. But when we did when we took away that destructive capability from Iran.
The president spoke about a variety of topics concerning the Middle East.
What did they do? They just cut it off mid-sentence? All right. Well, you could tell what the president was going for there. All right. I guess we're done there, Mark. What the president was alluding to was the Operation Midnight Hammer, which, of course, began here at Whiteman Air Force Base. You had the men and women fly to Iran, hit the nuclear sites of the Iranian regime, come back here to Missouri. And the president, it sounded like what he was getting at there is that basically laid the foundation for this peace deal between Israel and Hamas. And it resulted in the 20 hostages getting released this morning. So great news all around on that front. A historic day. And we've been covering it all morning long on KCMO. The president has just arrived in Egypt for a peace summit. He is set to walk off of Air Force One momentarily. So on Friday, we were supposed to be at Gardner Edgerton High School for their high school football game against Olathe East. And it got canceled at the 11th hour. We came on the air on Friday morning and we said we need a game to go to tonight. And we had a bunch of athletic directors and coaches reach out. And there are some of you I still need to get back to via email. I will do that today. I apologize for that. But Friday was kind of chaotic trying to get a game on the air because we were told after being approved to do our broadcast from Gardner Edgerton that we could not do it on Thursday afternoon. And I speculated that there were some things going on behind the scenes as to why we were suddenly turned down despite having this whole game lined up. We use a professional play-by-play guy, Chris Kamler, who does a great job. We have student broadcasters from both schools who end up as the color analysts for these games, along with folks down on the sidelines for halftime and postgame. And it's a way to build the future of broadcasting around Kansas City. It's been a great partnership with Sportscaster.com. They have been tremendous to work with on all this. And we've done a bunch of games around the Metro, both sides of state line. So the game gets canceled on Thursday. And what I found out on Friday from the athletic director is that he was upset with us asking the student broadcasters to get some stories and find out some information about their classmates who are playing in the game that you would not get on a traditional broadcast. Now, we've done this for going on a couple of months now. What we're doing is trying to give you stories about these players that you're not going to get from other broadcasts being done around Kansas City. That's part of the charm of using student broadcasters. We're not trying to do any gotcha journalism here. We're not trying to break any news about kids and where they're committing necessarily. I mean, that's not really the goal, but it's just kind of finding out about these players in a way that you might not find out about them if you're doing a traditional broadcast with, two guys who are older who don't know the student athletes who are playing. Once again, it's part of the charm. The AD at Gardner Edgerton decided to be offended by this request. He said that we should have asked him first for approval for the students to talk to their fellow classmates about what they would be comfortable sharing on the air. And once he saw that we were asking the student broadcasters to find out things about their fellow classmates that would make for good radio, he pulled the plug on our broadcast. So you have an AD with an ego who decides that he is going to take away a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity from these student broadcasters because he was upset with a questionnaire. I'm not even mad at them. I'm just shocked. And I really feel bad for the kids. Because I know that's something that if I had had that opportunity and I was a day away from having the opportunity and I had it taken away from me, this is not like being on a stream with 7 people watching. You're talking about being on a 100,000-watt radio station around Kansas City. It's a big deal. And to have that taken away from a young person who maybe wants to do this for a living and something that, regardless of what they do with their lives, when they're talking to their grandkids, when they're in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they're rocking on that front porch, they would have remembered that game. I guarantee you, they would have remembered the moment where they were part of a broadcast crew on KCMO Talk Radio calling the Gardner-Edgerton Olathe East High School football game. And because of an AD, these kids did not have that opportunity. Because of the ego of an AD, these kids did not have that opportunity. And once again, is high school, is middle school, is any of this, K through 12 education, is it about the kids or is it about the adults? And unfortunately, at least in the case of this game in Gardner-Edgerton, it became about the adults. And that is a darn shame.
Yeah, a Super Bowl announcer from Super Bowl 70 could have been saying, hey, my first time on the air was back on 95.7.
Yeah.
A high school game.
It's so true.
Right?
That's so true, John. And instead, that opportunity was taken away from the kids. So instead, what we did is we went to, Blue Valley West against Blue Valley Southwest. And the reason we chose that game, not that those of you that reached out weren't being helpful. I do appreciate all of you doing it. But we went back to Blue Valley West because technically speaking, we had done a game there. We knew what the setup was going to be like. So when you had to turn that around in 12 hours, we needed to go somewhere where we knew the technical setup would work, and we had done it before. So that's why we elected to go back to that game. But all of you that reached out, the ADs, the coaches, we are grateful for you. We will consider this for next year's schedule, assuming the partnership continues with sportscaster.com, which we believe that it will. If you want to yell at somebody for the scheduling, yell at Mark, because Mark does all the scheduling for these games of the week. And we're looking forward to what's going to be a great season. But it really is just too bad that, the Gardner-Edgerton deal went down the way it did. I feel for the kids.
Yeah, I thought we had 2 good schools there, but I know better for next year.
Yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad. I feel bad for Olathe East, too, because their kids got hosed. And it was no fault of their own. Mike in Olathe, what's up, Mike?
I'm trying to be very careful about this, but this isn't about ego. This is about fear. It may sound like ego, but this is how they operate over there. I have 2 granddaughters in the school, and a lot of kids and grandkids and stuff. This is how they operate. It's out of fear. And what happens is when you're afraid to just do good things or talk about truth or talk about normalcy, and you don't allow it, and you ostracize those who do, you end up getting your ass bitten off later because of that. So now what they've done is they've affected the school, not just negatively, but long term. But that's the atmosphere. And I know it's not just there. There's other places like it. But when you're afraid of what might happen, and all it is football, for heaven's sakes, and a team and an operation that runs well, and it was a great game. I was thinking you were there. I was watching it, thinking, oh, my gosh, this is a good game to have on the radio. I had no idea. I think it's more out of fear and how they operate than ego, per se.
Fear of what?
Fear of whatever. I'm just saying they had the teacher.
Well, hold on. Let me just say this. There was another radio station that was there as well, I guess, for this game. There was some belief that they were the ones blocking us, and that turned out not to be true.
Yeah, I would say it's more of a.
I think it's control. I think it's control and it's ego. I mean, I will, if you want to say it's partially fear, but I would say it's control and ego because I don't know what they would be afraid of.
I agree. I don't either, man. And that's a weird dynamic. So that's why it's a little. It's just weird. It doesn't make sense. That's all it is. It's frustrating.
Yeah,
and I'm with you on that. So.
And I don't care about the administration. I just feel bad for the kids. That's what this is about. Giving these kids an opportunity to have a once-in-a-lifetime experience. That's it. It's not about anybody else. It's not about us. We got a game on the air. It's not about us or this radio station or anything else. It's about giving these kids an opportunity, and they had it taken away from them. And that is that's a damn shame. We'll wrap up the show with a post I put up on social media that some people want to be part of the New Heights podcast this week. What is it and why? Next.
from the nation's heartland. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
So I'm standing at a urinal last night at Arrowhead Stadium. It's halftime. Chiefs are leading the Lions, and I'm minding my own business. And a guy turns to me in a Lions jersey. I couldn't tell which jersey he had on. I didn't want to, make it look like I was staring at him or peeking around or doing something like that.
Hopefully not Brian Branch.
No, I don't think anyone has one of those, Mark. And he looks at me and he just goes, as he's kind of leaning back and swaying a little bit, so he's had a couple of pops. And he goes, "This place is loud as bleep." And I'm like, yep, it is. Go Chiefs. Enjoy the rest of the game. And I thought that was impressive because Ford Field, where the Lions play, is pretty loud. It's a dome stadium. It gets pretty loud there and pretty energetic. So it's not like this was, some milquetoast Rams fan saying this on a trip to Arrowhead. This came from a Lions fan. And I just posted that last night on X and on Facebook. And some of you are mad I put the word on Facebook. It's like, stop, okay? There's no FCC rules on Facebook. If you don't want to see the word, just, interpret the word as you wish. All right?
It's quoted.
It's quoted. Exactly.
It's not you saying it.
It's like some people, you should put that on your Facebook. I'm sharing a story.
I just question the degree of loudness in his activities, though, if that's his comparison.
Well, he says that to me, and it got a lot of traction last night and this morning on social media. And a couple of people are tagging the New Heights podcast, and they're suggesting that my tweet should be the stamp of the week on the New Heights podcast. So what is that, Mark? What is the stamp of the week?
Yeah, the stamp of the week is just something they find on the internet that's good, something that makes them feel good, something that makes the community feel good. And, yeah, that falls under the category, I think.
Wow.
A loud stadium.
Yeah.
A visiting fan coming in saying that it's loud as bleep.
Travis had a good game, so he should be happy this week.
Yeah. And they like to cuss on the podcast, so.
Well, yeah, they do.
Can't listen to it with kids.
You cannot. I will not hold my breath and suggest that once they look at my profile and once the social media team with New Heights sees what I do, because I imagine they probably don't. I'm just totally spitballing here. They will not use any post from me as their stamp of the week. But if they do, we'll figure out a way to celebrate. All right? We'll figure out something to do if that tweet gets on the New Heights podcast. I don't know what it will be.
I'll be listening, so I'll let you know if you get on there.
Well, that is part of your job description, Mark, to watch and listen to the New Heights podcast every week. It's all on you.
Yeah, there's some good nuggets in there every now and then.
I don't deny that. I find them to be entertaining in a very unique way, and they are better together than they are apart. The brother thing is what makes it good, entertaining content. Separately, or if they were just friends, it really wouldn't work. But the fact that they're brothers actually makes it somewhat endearing and makes the show actually run pretty well. And I respect guys that want to build a brand beyond just the football field. I think business-wise, they've done very well, obviously. That's indisputable, and I'm happy for them. But it's just, especially because of the cursing, I can't listen to the show like around the house. I can't have the podcast on while I'm at home. So I don't catch it as much as Mark does. So Mark's in charge of finding out whether or not we get the New Heights podcast stamp of the week. All right?
Usually I have this hour and a half during gymnastics that I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting there. So I've got my headphones in. Just listen to it while everybody around me is just tuned out.
Okay. All right. So that's what you do. You should be cheering on during practice, gymnastics practice.
I know. I can't get in there, though. They're in a separate room, so we're just out there hanging out.
Yes. All right. Well, if we can get that tweet I put up last night as the stamp of the week, I'll be shocked. But hey, I never had a guy do that to me at the urinal. Turn around, look at me. Some people just say this place is loud as bleep. Someone asked on the text line if he peed on my leg. It can be dangerous when someone at the urinal turns to talk to you. I know this from experience. No, I stayed totally dry. Not a drip on me. Totally fine. It's all good, John.
Well, they got the handy wall mount there, the long trough thing, so that helps. It catches a little of the side spray.
You're right about that. But no, it was all good, man. It was totally fine. We had a good time last night.
Luckily, no concrete fell during all that. Right?
No.
So no cancer there at Arrowhead.
No concrete cancer at Arrowhead. It is all good, man. All good. And a little birdie did tell me that they were feeling good about the Chiefs' chances to stay there at Arrowhead. I don't have any real reporting on that. I'm just saying some people who probably should be in the know were feeling fairly confident last night when I did talk to them about this.
We should invite the guy back for this weekend's game with the Raiders.
Oh, yeah.
No, is that at home? I have a lot. I didn't keep track of schedule. It is at home?
Yeah.
Right.
Noon kick.
It'll be loud as F there, too.
Yes.
I think it's the only noon game so far this year so far.
Yeah, it is.
We're cheering just for that.
I was thinking about bringing Claire for her first ever experience for a regular season game, and then I was like, no, I don't think I can do it.
Game.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
The nastiest game I've ever been to was a Raiders Monday night game in probably 2022. I was like, I remember saying to myself, you can't have a kid at this game. Now, that was a Monday nighter, so it was different. It was even more juiced up, shall we say. But I was thinking about that the last 12 hours. I'm like, it's the Raiders. And even though it's a noon kick where it should be maybe a little more polite, it's not going to be much more polite with the Raiders.
Yeah, maybe if it was against the Titans, I'd say.
So you guys are both talking me out of it. And Mark's one, he's bringing, 5-year-olds to the World Series games. And even Mark's like, don't do it. Not the Raiders game.
Got to be careful out there.
All right. Well, you know what? You have both sold me that the right decision is to not take her at almost 7 years old. But she's like really into it this year, even more so than the last couple of years because she's starting to understand the rules of the game, which is really fun to watch. But all right, I was basically 90% of the way there, guys. You have sent me to 100%. I will not take her to the Raiders game this weekend.
Good call, Dad.
Dad of the week. Speaking of my oldest, just got a video from Kate. She has, she went to a little thing today at the school because my oldest won an award, the 3 R's, they call it. Respect, responsibility, and building relationships. Once a semester, they give out awards to 5 kids in each grade, and my oldest won it. So thank you very much. We'll have to do a paternity test because I'm not sure if she's my child, if she's great at respect, responsibility, and relationships. But either way, that's outstanding news. And grateful for her. And grateful for you. Have a great rest of your Monday, a historic Monday in the Middle East. The president has just arrived in Egypt for a peace summit. He is sitting down right now with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and other dignitaries. As more comes out of that meeting this morning, you'll hear it from Keatsman and from The Vince Show at 11 o'clock. Have a great day.